Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the pause again. I did manage to get Drake, and I would like to welcome Tanaath and Sunfire. You are live.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Welcome to the program. I think we finally got everybody connected. Drake, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Drake, would you like to speak for just a moment while I gather? We have a lot of continuation questions. I don't know if you wanted to present a little bit of something about tonight's show before we go right to questions, or
sure.
I'm okay. All right. So you go ahead and you can introduce Tanaath and Sunfire and a little bit about the program while I pull the questions together now, and we'll be starting momentarily, gang.
Okay, well, what I'm looking at is this. We got an ambassador, and we have a leader, commander in Silver Legion, and I just happen to be, I don't know what you'd call it, a muscly foot soldier in things, and what we've been doing is helping the preparations towards several things. Liberation of the planet, get rid of the bad guys and all this sort of stuff. Now, I know people have got a lot of interest in intel reports and things of that nature, and there's a couple of heavies getting ready to come on board with us, dealing with a variety of things. So you might bear in mind that as this is progressing, other things have been going on. This is not the only thing that's happening. Now, the reason for the shows is to give information. People can ask questions. It's the easiest way rather than trying to do an interview and somebody reading questions that, may or may not be relevant to what people want to hear. Now, there are things that you may not hear on here. Some of those different subjects that are sensitive, if there's ongoing things, if there's tactical issues or other sensitivities, they won't be discussed. There's a great many of people in very specific places who actually do not want to be outed, specifically on Terra, specifically on the radio. Consequently, we respect those issues. We respect those people, be they ET entities or whatever. I do the same thing with my people in the intelligence arena. Now, here's the big fun and games part. The United States military has been well aware for quite a while, and I mean by quite a while, several decades of the situation with the fact that we are not alone. You've been lied to, everybody, just like on the other stuff that is covered on the other shows. The reason being, they felt that the people of the United States of America were too stupid to handle the information. They guaranteed, they felt absolute positive that everybody would get the shotgun out and go hunt ETs. Well,
it's more than that, Rick.
Huh?
It's way more than that. It's more than just that they thought that we were all too stupid. It's just that they had an agenda in controlling the spread and the dissemination of information.
I ain't got that for yet. Hold on a minute now. If somebody really is curious, and I'll qualify what she just said real easily. It's called Operation Blue Book. It's called the UFO-itis that has been so prevalent for so long among certain people. People consider people that fool around with such things or believe in such things as some kind of nutcases. Well, that's all fine, well, good, and dandy. I don't personally care what people think of me. What I care about is the truth. Here's the truth. Several things are going on. We have a transition coming up. World did not come to an end on 12/21/12, so apparently it's not going to come to an end. That's for one little thing to take note of. Now, the other part of this goes into several different areas. We have releasement of the collateral accounts, which financially will change everything that everybody's familiar with. Number two, because things change on a financial basis, our society is going to be in a situation where it is forced, our manner of living, to also start adjusting radically. if you add suppressed technologies, and I'm going to hit on just some stupid ones, 200 to 500 miles per gallon on a carburetor. Everybody's heard of it. It's sitting on a shelf. I found out where. I even had the documentation at one point. I used to be a real regular snoop. The ideology that a car can run on water, ooh, that's far out. They killed that man and stole everything he had. Told his wife she opened her mouth, they'd kill her too. So she shut up. She told me about this personally. I talked to her. The rest of it is swamp gas, weather balloons, and other forms of horse hockey and BS that the government puts out in order to hide two things. One, the reality of the fact that they can't do nothing about it. Big bad military can't fight back. Sniff. Well, here's the other part. As was mentioned just now, absolute and total and complete control of the ideologies that we possess, let alone any excess knowledge, any kind of, well, what do you mean you don't got to put gas in the car anymore? The oil companies don't like that. Where do you think the money comes from for the government? From oil companies and raping the people. Okay, well, if you don't have to pay taxes on stuff, or it's something that's not regulated, or something they can put a meter on and charge you for, they don't want you to have it. They do not want you to be in good health because they make a lot more money selling you a little purple pill that's the Mr. Feel-Good in a bottle for the rest of your life, rather than giving you a cure. They treat the symptoms. You will not find the word cure anywhere. The reason you won't is, as I said, money, moolah, you know. So what we're breaking this down to is, what is the power? The power itself is twofold. One is information. He who controls information, if you don't know about something, it's hard to deal with it until all of a sudden you fall over it in the middle of the night or whatever. The other thing is financial leverage controls most of what we have been up against. If you go objecting to the government, they pull your mortgage. Ooh, you got to pay that sucker. Yeah, right. Your bills come due. Your credit card don't work. You lose your job. You name it. Now, they've been doing enough of that anyway, just for the fun of it. The ideology here is it goes into two areas. One is the absolute control. The reason you're having disasters is because they want to make you more reliant upon an entity that's big brother enough to take care of you. Well, my mama quit powdering my butt and changing my drawers a long time ago. So, and I've been kind of radical about a lot of things. Some of the things I've done in conjunction with ET have been rather radical from what I found out. I didn't know that. Just something needed done, and I did it. The things that we got to look at is what's the real deal. Okay, I have expressed, first of all, societal changes, financial changes, and we're looking at a transition, going from one-dimensional reality to another. This is going to be drastic. It's going to be rather obtuse. It's going to freak some poor people out. Why? Because they don't listen to the show and get some kind of understanding and be able to get their head around simple questions. This is the reason for the show. We're outing what they don't want you to hear. That's why we have technical difficulties, for one. The second part of that is that there are two classifications of entities. One good, one bad. Everybody's met the bad guy on the block one time or another. He usually is not nice. Well, you've heard of Agenda 21, where they intend to eliminate population. If you haven't, go to the website, United Nations, Agenda 21. Look it up. It's posted. They intend to eradicate a whole bunch of us. Why? Because so they can have their way. The idea here is to have a very select few in absolute charge of everything, and a slave race, what's left of it, to service their needs. Basically, that's it. Well, there's a whole bunch of us that object to that idea, to include E.T. Now, everybody's heard biblically, and this is going to blow some minds, of the so-called end times, and things are going to go bump in the night that you don't want to hear. Well, the choice is simple. I have talked on my Sunday shows about freedom, that this is our basic last shot at it, and that we need to really get our stuff together so that it does come about, and we can fix things so that it doesn't happen again. Well, there's more to it than that. The ancient battle between the light and the dark is very real, between the good and the evil. If our Earth, our planet, our country, being the crux of it, falls to the bad guys, not only do they win, but all of the good, slowly over a period of time, gets stomped out. Now, we got enough fun and games dealing with government regulation, taxes, and other horse hockey that has been foisted upon us that we have allowed to happen. So I took issue with that. That makes me a radical, some kind of a nutcase usually, which is fine with me, except that what I have decided to do is go at it from a truth standpoint. The best way to get to the truth is to get with people that are the real thing. These two ladies are the real deal. And you need to get used to the idea that there are other people, entities out there. Some of them look pretty different from what we are, but who cares? I don't personally. I think it's pretty cool to have something that looks totally different from a humanoid type individual. I think that's cool. And I will, hopefully without embarrassment, ask a whole bunch of stupid questions about this, that, and the other thing. Just so I'll know. Now, the ETs, they look at us, and they don't believe it. They do not believe that a race with any kind of intelligence at all would act like we do. But here we be. So they're kind of going, wow, man, look at that one, you know. And I don't blame them. Somebody that's intelligent probably wouldn't have much to do with this. However, we are the key crux balance point in terms of the existence of the light in relation to the darkness. It's supposed to be a balance of sorts, and that balance has been tipping in the favor of the darkness. So we're left with an option.
It's more than that. It's more than that, Drake.
I know, but
Not
I
only
also
has
am
it
looking
been
at
tipping
Titan.
in the favor of the darkness, but the darkness went nuts.
I'm looking to fight for it. That's my take on it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that the light shines. Hopefully I don't stomp on too many things in the process, but I don't mind that either. But what I'm saying is that the basis of existence could change drastically. And you're saying more than that, and I'll let you get into that. What I'm saying is that things could change drastically to a point where you don't want to be anymore. And that's what we want to avoid. We want people to be able to enjoy the grass under their bare feet, nice sunshine, and decent weather and things of this nature. These things are coming. With ET's help, advanced technology, and the listening of an audience to what's real. Now I'm going to turn it over to the ladies and let them tell me how I didn't cover it all. I'm not going to cover it all. I'll tell you that right up front. There's no way.
Tanaath and Sunfire.
There's no way to cover it all.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, it's more than just that the balance between the darkness and the light got tipped over. Darkness, in the meantime, also went kind of insane. In an ideal universe, which this was intended to be when it was built, darkness and light would actually not be opposing factions, but working together for the harmony of all. There is no need for evil, yet somehow evil came into existence. And, you know, that's kind of where the root problem of all of this is, and we happen to be at the culminating, fulminating end of this. And that's why we're doing something, because, well, this planet and its people deserve a fair shot, and this universe and its people deserve a fair shot.
Yeah, I'm fully in agreement with all of it.
Oh, I know you are, Drake. I've worked with you long enough to know this to be the truth.
Some people understand I'm a little squirrely, too. That doesn't hurt anything.
Just makes you more fun.
Well, I think it's funny. I mean, it's comical to me that so many entities don't understand what you just said, that the harmonious balance, whatever, however you want to look at that, has been disturbed by the insanity. Well, what's insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result? Or in the case of the insanity of the void, darkness, whatever you want to call it, that they got to eat us up or whatever? I mean, I never have. I mean, nobody can define normal anyway, because I'm not so sure it really exists.
I think there's a physics definition.
Well, people that don't cause harm.
Perpendicular.
Huh?
Perpendicular. That's the physics definition of normal. Perpendicular. So you're normal when you stand up, and you're normal when you lie down, but I'm sitting, so I sure ain't normal.
Okay. But, the things that I've seen and the things I've experienced, it's a lot of Star Trek stuff, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. And all of this stuff is just about as absolutely real as it gets. People need to understand at least the possibility. People need to understand that the probability of something that doesn't want to hurt the cute little animals such as us, no matter how superior they might be, and maybe they could even talk to them and become friends, I think that's extraordinary. And I've talked to some of these people. I have a very good head for physics, and I understand Tanaath knows this, so is Tanaath. Was it Sunfire? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. The gist of things is very simple. I understand some of the extraordinarily advanced physics that we are going to eventually here employ. And instead of having to worry about cutting the grass, you tell the grass what length you want it, and it's perfectly happy to oblige. You might have to talk to it about it. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to act like a teenager. We have some people that are associated with us that do that. Sometimes the people or entities that we run across are real dinglebats. Some of them are not so insane as what people would like to think. It's such a wide variety of interesting. I never thought of that one before, kind of stuff. That I'm quite honestly astonished a lot of the time. Wow, that's different, So I'm kind of sitting here going, wow. And I haven't had, Tath, you can explain. I haven't had a lot of experience with this, but this is really neat.
Yeah, it is really neat. I think that's really the only way you can describe something like this. All the things that we were told were nothing more than fantasy and science fiction. All those things exist. Now, it's one thing to sort of accept that as an intellectual proposition. It's another thing to meet Luke Skywalker or something like that. It's a whole different proposition than what I was expecting. I've got my story about the ninja who followed me home. Went out cruising in another universe and came home with somebody who I didn't realize actually existed.
It's marvelous. But, these introductions are going to be a little varied and different. I think I've proved that tonight. And I'm not looking to be extraordinarily correct, okay? What I'm looking to do is to be able to address to the average person who doesn't have a lot of knowledge of high-level sciences, who does not have necessarily a belief in what we're talking about. But anyway, they've seen Star Trek, and they're curious. What do you mean that's real? You mean to tell me I can walk up to a thing and punch it in and get cold beer out of it? Oh, boy. Well, from what I understand, yes. Now, I don't know if that thing understands how many beers you've had and cuts you off like a bartender or not. I'm not aware of those things yet. But you can think of the idea that you can have living entities that are so extraordinarily different from you that your mind cannot perceive them other than a big blob of something, as an example. And yet, very intelligent, very personable. And people have seen Ghostbusters, and they remember Slimer. He was real popular. Imagine a kiss from Slimer or a big hug, and you get an idea as to the possibilities. I feel, and Tath, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this may be a part of one of the reasons that handshakes and things of that nature are probably not the best way to start the conversations, other than the fact that
pretty much not everybody has hands.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's another thing. What do I shake? So, from a we're the only ones perspective, we're going to switch over to a population of millions of different types of entities, just about every configuration you can imagine, and some that you can't even get your head around. You look at it and what is that? I wonder which ends up on that thing, And in a very common sort of a perspective, I've always been curious. So I look at the strange bugs. I see whatever's going on. I love science fiction because it's imaginary, supposedly. You can use your imagination, just run wild with it. What freaked me out was the fact that this stuff is real. That sort of, wow, man, now what? So my way of dealing with it is to get involved. The best way I know of to understand what's really going on is to have a conversation with an entity that, as far as we're concerned, don't even exist. That's given me the greatest insights that I've ever found. And then also being involved, experiencing it, I get to see one, wow, man, you're a bit different. And it's looking at you saying, yeah, so are you. So you mutually agree on, I ain't like you and you ain't like me and far out. Now what? You have out there a listening audience that's going to ask questions that are not the type of questions necessarily that fit anything in particular, but that is their particular interest or curiosity at this point. As these things are answered, and I want people to understand this, it would be a good idea, whatever question you've got that is particularly important to you, make note of what the answers are. Go back and listen to the archive if you need to. But be sure that what is a succinct question? Well, what do they look like? Well, they look like everything that you can imagine. So that's not definable. What does a certain entity look like? Well, that entity's asked me not to tell what it looks like. So you're going to be stuck with your imagination. Now, if you can understand something simple, and this was done very well by Star Trek, you have several races, different entities in that, most of whom were of a humanoid type. They ran across several that were not. So you have to understand that was limited in certain respects so that the audience could be a combination of entertained and the stuff was not so far out that it was totally unbelievable. And that's basically
CG was a lot less available back in those days, too.
Well, yeah, but you also have to understand, back then you had to watch your audience, because you show them a little green man from Mars and they'll believe it. And at one point there was a little green man from Mars, from what I understand. So, it all goes to the capability of our ability to understand simple things. We're not alone. There's thousands, millions of different entities out there, and some of them look just like us. You can't tell the difference. Some of them look so totally different, as I said, you can't even imagine it until you see one. I've seen a few that were really freaky different in terms of being different, but they were nice people. I'll say people because I don't know what else to say. We'll go from there. The way I'm seeing it, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I hear we got lots of questions.
Do we, Denise?
Oh, yeah.
From last time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should start hitting those.
I would say
yeah,
start
There's some really
bringing.
interesting questions, even like in the thread for this tonight's show. There looks like some really interesting questions as well.
Yeah.
Let's get her out.
We had questions left from last week. Then we had questions that people asked in anticipation of tonight's show. I already have 13 pages of questions, and we haven't even started the show.
All right. Well, let's get at it, I'd say.
Okay. All right. Some of them are sort of kind of inappropriate, but some of them are not. But you can just kind of glance over the ones that would be best answered on your show, Drake. For instance, anyone know what's up with the Illuminati?
Yeah.
What?
We've done several things here on the planet. We pulled their pants down pretty thoroughly, and they're embarrassed. We've got some public announcements dealing with subjects of power and things of that nature that will validate some of the things that I have talked about specifically dealing with we the people and our ability to be free. So look forward to that. Hopefully we'll get to that in the next couple of days in terms of my getting the knowledge. As I get it, we're going to have a public post on the website.
Yep.
And we will then also are looking to have a show dealing specifically with the militias and other public officials that have finally stepped up to the plate. And I think it's going to be really awesome when this comes about.
Absolutely.
So the people are beginning to do their thing. And hopefully then in the near future, ET will be able to culminate. Yeah.
Anyone else catch that official disclosure that happened there with Paul Hellyer of Canada?
Which one was that?
Well, I caught a YouTube of it earlier. I'll get it to Universal Voice, and they can get it up on the Facebook. But yeah, it looks like we got some actual disclosure happening. So if people all these people who say I'll believe it when somebody in the government says it, well, somebody in at least the Canadian government has said it, so there you go. It's starting.
Cool.
Yeah, where it's been hitting the fan in jelly bean size things. We're up to we're starting to smell some rotten eggs going into the fan and a few other things, and the chunks are getting larger all the time.
So where's them questions at, Denise?
Soon to be Greyhound buses, right? Okay. Next question. Yeah. Will us Terrans be provided with, say, a database of other races out there in space, their biology and their customs? It sounds like something useful to have to get familiar with the other races.
Not as
words,
of yet, largely for
manual?
Security. Eventually, yes, but for security purposes, that's not going to happen right away.
Okay.
A comprehensive who's who is also impossible because we don't even know, right? Like there is just so many different groups out there that it's impossible to categorically know all of them. But to get sort of the who's who with the local who for sure.
I think eventually, and it will not be until after general disclosure here on Terra, but the Federation is planning to provide, I guess you could say, a hitchhiker's guide to the galaxy kind of thing, but it'll only be what, like the member planets of the Federation and the system, and I think more actually kind of like a tourist guide to the Federation. But, that's one of the things that is being planned. But, yeah, definitely because of security reasons and other reasons, it's not going to be until after general disclosure.
Okay, good. And I'll let everybody know, too, that Universal Voice isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and that, of course, with Drake's help and the assistance of people like you, beautiful ladies, that, we will be able to continue to share with people what things to look out for and what, help to guide people. So, which ET races do the biospheres belong to who are hovering over the North and South Poles?
We've answered that before. That's the Arcturians.
Arcturians, okay. Do you folks know if Carl Sagan was Cabal? I don't think that he might have been. Perhaps more like aware of them. Seen some talk about him being of the Cabal and involved in all their nastiness, but I don't believe it. Do you?
I don't have personal information on Carl Sagan, so I can't answer that question. Sunfire might. She's currently disconnected.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, you're back? Excellent.
Who?
Carl Sagan,
Sagan or
famous
Sagan?
astronomer.
No clue. I don't really, I haven't really been keeping track of him.
What about you, Drake? Do you have any knowledge of that?
The knowledge I have is not supposed to be given out at this point, but I heard that the man was correct in some things and not so much in others.
Okay.
It's like this. It's hard to be definitive about things unless you're directly in it. And a lot of it right now is sensitive to what we're accomplishing. So there's a lot of it that cannot be disclosed. It's like the intelligence information that I've got right now would blow some minds, but it's going to wait until the right time to release it. Simple.
Okay. Are Tanaath and Sunfire are they involved in a feud along with Drake with the OPPT folk? And do you really think that they're on the run? And if so, from what?
I don't have any information about the OPPT. I'm not involved in the financial side of this at all.
Yeah,
I do.
I would say I echo Tanaath's things. I have nothing to do with the financial end of this battle.
Okay.
And as far as my opinion on the OPT, I think I support Drake on that.
Okay. Drake.
Yeah, what you have to understand, people, is that the thing is it's a farce. It is not real. I've talked to the principals involved. I talked to the man who wrote the paperwork. That's not the same paperwork, among other things. You're dealing with thieves. You're dealing with liars. I would suggest you be very careful. What are they on the run from? They're on the run from the authorities. They did some things that they are not supposed to do that they knew better than to do and were told about, and they did it anyway. You do not go into attempting to start civil wars in countries. That's a no-no, period. It also violates a whole bunch of different international laws that we have against such things. Now, I'm not saying that a change of administration in some cases, by whatever means necessary, may not be the case. It may be that is the only way. However, you don't go calling for the people to rise up against authorities that have not gone after the populace. That's one of the biggest no-nos I can think of. And they're hiding out simply because the authorities, international authorities, are trying to find them. They want them to answer some questions. And I think it's interesting that they decided to take off and run for the hills instead of answer the questions. That tells me that they know that they did something wrong, and they also know they're going to have to pay the piper at one point or another. Eventually, all of these things will come out, as you'll see. Next.
Okay, furthermore, is the OPPT actually trying to defraud and take money from individuals?
Absolutely. They're also putting together things that are not kosher. These little courtesy letters and whatnot are going to get you in trouble. Don't use that stuff. You don't know what you're doing. And they're not worded correctly. Next.
Okay. For Drake and or Tanaath, the prophecies of, here we go, Garabandal, Garbendal, Spain, by our Blessed Virgin Mary include the warning, which will be experienced everywhere and by everyone on earth, and is meant to give mankind the chance to amend their lives, to correct the conscience of the world, and prepare us for the great miracle. The great miracle, Our Lady promised, will show God's manifestation of His love, will take place at the Grove of 9 Pines trees overlooking the village, and the miracle will appear permanently in the Grove of Nine Pines forever for the world to see. The miracle will occur on Thursday evening at 8:30 p.m. on or between the 8th and the 16th of March, April, or May. The miracle will then coincide with a rare and important event in the church and on the feast day of the Martyr of the Eucharist. This has been calculated to be the spring of 2017. The sick present at the miracle will be cured and sinners converted, and their incredulous will believe. If the end times prophecies of the Bible have been canceled, have our Blessed Mother's Garbandal prophecies also been canceled as well?
Do we have any assurance that that was actually made by any actual genuine being or authority? I mean, it's all well and fine for somebody to come around with a holographic projector, make a quote-unquote miracle, cow some people who don't necessarily have the means to know better into believing them and say, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. That doesn't necessarily mean it's actually going to happen. If it's something that can be faked, assume that it was. And that is something that can be very, very easily faked. Even with existing technology that we Terrans have. And sure as heck, visitors to this planet had equivalent technology back then. So I have a real issue with these claims and these prophecies because I can't guarantee that the source is what they claim they are.
Okay.
I'm going to go a step further. Take the religiosity out of it. Period. I don't care who you are, what you think, how you believe. Do not agree to an absolute that is written in any belief text. The reason being is that the bad guys wrote those things, and they're probably, if you look at them, contradictory. If the word itself, as written, is the perfection in manifestation, the making real of the, quote, Godhead to be given to man, then there cannot be any contradiction in it. And yet, the Bible, the Quran, all these other belief texts, you'll find contradictions. And those contradictions are not small. So bear that in mind. I really take issue with the idea that somebody will take somebody's heart and rip it out by playing games with it. That can be somebody that promises you $10 million in the mail. That can be somebody who promises you the fulfillment of a, quote, prophecy. And I've studied this particular one, and it does not have the validity that these people say it does. So go from there.
Can someone please explain to me how young children will be able to make a sound decision in regards to the information that will be presented to them on the transition? They have no clue what is going on in the present and what has been going on in the past. How can they possibly choose between 3 and 4D?
You're just assuming that they don't have any clue. I mean, a lot of the current generation of kids are much more aware and in tune than people are giving them credit for. It's not going to be as hard as people are thinking.
I'll vote for that.
Okay.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, thank you, honey. Okay, next question. I would like for you to explain the Quilanta codes and the language and how we would learn it, or would it be necessary to learn it?
I'm still not an expert on Quilanta. I know there's one individual who keeps mailing me the stuff. It's not really my bag. I'm not getting a ping back off of it. I'm sorry.
I don't know anything about it.
I'm just plain not going to say. I've heard rumors, and I'm not going to get any further than that.
I think you are wrong on a few things. Like in the past show, you said that Anukais are neutral. That is a convenient position for those in the Andromeda Council who voted to let them in. Isn't that true?
The Andromeda Council, as far as I know, never voted to let the Anunnaki in. The Anunnaki are not dyed-in-the-wool evil. They are, at worst, opportunists, kind of like a yeast infection. They came in without the invitation or consent of anyone, proceeded to have their fun, and then when things got too hard, packed up and left with a shaked fist saying, "We'll be back," and then now are not capable of being back. There might be some fragments, but as a society, they're no longer capable of sort of mass revenge or anything like that.
Okay. I don't know if this question was answered the last time or not, but is there a 4D version of my vehicle? Will it be waiting for me?
I have no clue. Don't worry. It's going to be taken care of.
We'll get around no matter.
We'll have transportation.
Okay.
I wouldn't fixate on individual things. It's not healthy for you mentally anyway. One good fire and it's all over anyway. So, you know, stuff really, all it does is make your life more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll have different things to make us comfortable. So, after the transition, will we have the opportunity to choose the age of the appearance of our body, or will it just stay the same in age appearance, but will be healthier?
Okay, a few things on appearance, and this is a good subject because I also got an email from somebody asking about appearance. I think you will by default appear to be mid-20s to 30s, though you can, if you were older than that, you can make yourself look older if that's your choice. You're not going to be able to pick and choose parts. You'll be able to look like what you looked like in the past or look like an idealized version of yourself, but you're not going to be able to go through, like, say, a list of celebrities and say, I want you know, this guy's crooked teeth and that guy's nose and this one's eyebrows and her flowing hair and all of that. It's not going to be a pick and choose grab bag.
Okay, so Jennifer Aniston's out for me. Okay.
Jennifer Aniston is too busy looking like Jennifer Aniston. You know, look like yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. I would settle for myself at 20.
There you go.
That would be fine by me. Okay, next question, really a comment. The term law of attraction is actually the name used for the process of manifesting desires into being, just for clarification, correct?
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. It's the principle, and I'd say it's more principle than a law, unless you think of it sort of like as gravity. But, yeah, the principle is basically that whatever you're putting all your energy into, that's what you're going to get.
Okay. As a naturopath, I've given recommendations for echinacea or inchinacea to my clients for over 25 years. You are recommending echinacea for sleep, and I have never heard of this as a use for echinacea. That's just another comment, Drake.
Well,
I'd heard of it for immune system bolstering and as a general adaptogen, but I've never heard of it for sleep either. So.
Well, what it does, it's like St. John's wort. It takes away the anxieties. It allows your mind to be peaceful. Simple things that are conducive to sleep.
Yeah.
That's where
while it doesn't actually
reputation.
Right, it doesn't actually induce sleep. It works on the other things that might cause you to be sleepless.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Also known as purple coneflower.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, this woman
Grown
says,
wild all over.
I used it for immune-related disorders, for cold, flu, fevers, and infections, and it is a great anti-inflammatory. I called many of my naturopath friends. Yeah, I have called many of my naturopath friends, and no one has heard of it as being used for sleep either. I checked several websites. So anyway, that was just a comment. All right, next question is, let's see, question for Sunfire. Tanaath said that you are knowledgeable of our origins. I would like to know of the original Mars colony. Are they the true source of the original Terran human beings, possibly referred to as the Ayan or Ayan? Is this true at all? It was said to have happened 9,500 years before Christ when Vela supernova destroyed it. Also, has any other more local planets besides what Tolek has described as our closest relatives had any hand in our species development, like maybe Venus? Any true original tale of us will suffice that you can share.
There is between 22 and 25 different races involved in the genetic engineering of what we know as the modern Terran. Generally speaking, between 3 to 7 different genetic between 3 to 7, each individual has generally a higher concentration of between 3 to 7 of those 22 to 25. As far as the Mars colony being the origins of the Aryans, I don't think that's the case. It's not from what I remember anyway. I believe these were a combination of Syrian and Lyran genetics, from what I remember.
Okay.
So I hope that helps.
Yes, it
I
does.
also don't think that the Venusians had any significant impact into our into the development of the Terran species.
Right, yeah.
I know you've addressed this issue before, but I feel it is critical to understanding for my family. Did I hear you correct in saying that many on Earth will be unable to ascend because they have reptilian blood or cannot deal with their own emotional issues? Or am I to understand that at this point that will not interfere, and if you have a heartbeat and you are here on Earth, that you will get to ascend? Please clarify. Thank you.
If you have a heartbeat, if you're here on Earth, if you haven't decided to pack up and go somewhere else, you're going to ascend. It has nothing to do with the percentage of reptilian blood. It has nothing to do with, your attitudes and thoughts and feelings and all of that, or your emotional state. Those things, reptilian DNA you can't help. But your attitudes, your emotions, your thoughts, all of the things that you've gone through in your life, it helps if you do the self-work to deal with them. Not because it's going to be a deciding factor in whether or not you ascend, because you're going to ascend if you're here, but for the straight-out reason that it's going to be a heck of a lot less shocking and traumatic for you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Perfect sense. Okay. All right. I'm confused about something. If reptilians will become uncomfortable here after a certain point, you mentioned that they might feel as if they have burrs in their butts. Why were they not uncomfortable in the Procyon system with their little gray buddies when they took it over? I believe that the home planet Kyaina is at the least a 4D positive planet. What's the scoop?
There was a long process of they didn't come in guns blazing, we'll put it that way. If you look at the stuff that Kyla has left in the public record here, he talks about a slow infiltration and slow change, not taking place over a couple hundred years, but taking place over thousands of years. A slow, steady, deliberate infiltration that proceeded in steps. So even though the Procyon home planet and home system was vibrating at a fourth dimensional positive, it was able to be undermined slowly.
Okay. Also, the information that you have given about the Procyon system is awesome, especially about Kyla. What are some of the specific practical jokes, if you can share any, or funny things that he's done while interacting with y'all?
Oh, dear.
Oh, I chased Morai, his partner, around a spaceship for hours trying to get him to do something that he was supposed to do. Now he's able to teleport, so this was very interesting. I'm sure Sunfire has some anecdotes.
I can do it with a straight face. Oh, there's been, the one thing about the Procyons, especially Kyla, is there is no end to their imagination. I mean, he's 15 feet tall, so you can imagine there's all that imagination and creativity, and the Procyons, they're really something else. I think, honestly, the ones I can remember right now are not something that I can share with the public, especially on a PG radio show like this.
Okay. So he's a naughty boy. Okay.
They're very naughty boys. In fact, they're notorious for that.
Okay. I woke up with such a feeling of excitement that I had to go outside to listen for church bells. It is Sunday here, but there were no bells that I could hear. I guess I'm just hearing them in my head. Do Tanaath and Sunfire agree that when we reach a point of freedom or nearing ascension, will bells ring out throughout the planet?
I've never heard of bells being a part of it. That's an interesting thing. I look forward to seeing what happens.
Okay.
That was my thing.
Yeah, Drake said he was going to have the church bells ring all around the world.
I've contacted just about everybody that's got a church bell, and when the United States sets itself free, everybody's going to hear church bells if I got anything to say about it. Okay?
Okay, cool. Okay.
That's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Okay, my pronunciation is terrible. You have to forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Drake, is it true about the nerve pinch from the Tau Sapiens that the Russian Spetsnaz used and was used by Spock, who looks like a Tau Sapien in Star Trek?
Oh, you're talking about the quote-unquote Vulcan nerve pinch. Yeah, they got something like that.
It's pronounced Tausetian.
Yeah, Tausetian.
Tausetian? Okay.
And I did look into that and research it. And if you do that particular thing with a specific type of chi being put out, it works just like Spock did it. Okay?
Okay. All right. After listening to the talk with you and Tanaath and Sunfire last week and hearing that the food we eat will become energy and there will be no more urination and defecation as we know it, ascension became more real and a lot of questions have come to mind. What happens to the organs that support urination and defecation? The kidneys, the liver, the pancreas, the intestines. Will they become vestigial?
Yeah, they become vestigial.
Okay.
And that also means that if you ever have to go back into a physical dimension, they'll still work. But yeah, they're largely vestigial at that level.
And if there is no more urine or feces, how is it that we are connected to the earth since our bodily products would no longer feed it in an amazing cycle that supports life and growth the way we know it? It just becomes something that we look at but are not really a part of?
No, you're still a part of the planet. The relationship becomes a lot more personal at that point. It becomes a matter of energy as opposed to physical waste. Every living thing is intimately connected with their planet of origin.
Okay.
And in the cases of, say, for instance, like there is a mutual reciprocal relationship between people and their planet. In the Tausetians' case, all of the Tausetian planets produce a certain kind of crystal, which the planet will give to them to use, and that helps them maintain. These crystals form the basis of their star drives, and that helps them maintain the intimate connection with their planet, even when they're in space.
Okay. Has anyone ever told you, Tanaath, that your voice and the way you talk, you sound just like Dharma, Jenna Elfman from the old TV show Dharma and Greg?
No, I'd never heard that. I do get told that I have a nice voice, and I've worked on telephones and whatnot before, so I've never been told that I sound like Dharma.
Okay. All right.
I've had all kinds of people email me with their guesses as to which YouTube star I am. I'm sorry, I'm not any YouTube stars.
Okay, and back to the person who was asking the biological questions. Would animals also no longer provide manure or urine? Now no cow patties, no horse manure, no fish poop that feed the smaller fish and plant life. What will happen to the cycle of life, and what happens to the smell of a barn? Will there be none?
As far as I know, life continues without requiring poop.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically like with, like she said, with the humans or humanoids or chalcedians, for example. It's the same thing with animals and plants. The cycle of life continues. It just continues in a different way.
Okay, so then the next question is, will babies be born in the same way through sex, and will they be delivered in the same way through a mother's body? Will babies no longer need diapers? Then will there even be babies?
There will be babies. Okay,
yeah,
there's a lot of different ways to reproduce. Tolek has spoken about deliberately manifesting children, and this is one method that many people choose to use, and it isn't restricted just to man and woman either. Small groups and same-sex partnerships can deliberately manifest children. A lot of us prefer the old-fashioned way, which is pregnancy, gestation, carrying and delivering, although it's not strictly required. And a lot of us, of course, prefer the old-fashioned way of conceiving children.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, these are very interesting questions. Will there then be genitalia and sex, and will we still live in the same way that, like people are afraid to be naked or in front of one another, or?
Nudity taboos vary widely by culture, but a lot of people really just don't care. Clothing is one of these things that people like because, hey, it's fun. Not because, oh my God, I'm going to turn to stone if I see somebody naked, right? Or I'm going to turn people to stone if they see me naked, right?
I've
so
always
a lot
thought
of us don't have the same.
Keeping me warm or whatever.
Yeah, it's either functional or it's for decoration. It's not necessarily to cover nudity. Yes, genitalia still exist. People really don't fetishize it quite to the same extent that we do here. Think of some of the societies on Earth that don't fetishize women's exposed breasts. It's kind of the same thing. When it comes to things like sex, it definitely does go on quite a bit. And I actually asked an Androni friend, I asked him flat out, do fluids still exist? And he assured me that they do, and they do because they're fun and people like them.
Yeah. Okay.
And that stuff exists. It doesn't stop at the next two dimensions. It exists well past the thousands of dimensions.
As far as I know, you never turn into a fuzzy, sexless ball of light. Unless that's what you do. Unless that's what you want.
What will happen to our down-to-earth, quote, expressions like horse hockey, stepping in it? Does it all become antiquated expression from a time when life was earthy? What about talking dirty?
I think those goes on.
Yeah. Those will definitely still continue. I know, I can tell, I can see it coming. Those are still going to continue.
I've never met an Androni who can't swear like a sailor.
There we go.
And I've even heard my brothers and Admiral Mander use scatological references.
I've heard my brother and those are my crewmates too. They've used swear words. They've used Terran terms, and I mean, it was honestly, it was a shock the first time I heard my brother say the BS word. And the first time I heard it out of his mouth, it was like, what did you just say? And then it just became really funny after that. And now it's like they, this interaction between the dimensionals and the ETs and us, it's a two-way mentoring street. It's a two-way learning thing. They're learning from us as much as we're learning from them.
Yeah, and they do know what feces and urine are.
Okay.
Just because they don't produce it doesn't mean they don't know what it is.
Doesn't mean they don't know what it is. Right. What about sex when in 4D existence? Will it be more or less intense?
Well, usually at that point, most people have some kind of psionic or empathic ability. So if you're a telepath or an empath, let's just say it gets better and better. Also, unless it is your intent to feel pain or cause pain, I know for a lot of women and some men on this planet right now, sex is a painful proposition. It doesn't need to be that way. And a lot of the dysfunctions that Terrans can suffer in the realm of sex and sexuality, they're also not going to stick around. So, if you're a sufferer of one of the many, many sexual dysfunctions that afflict humanity on this planet, you don't need to worry or feel ashamed. That's going to
So we're
get
not going to have a
naturally.
need for Viagra then. Men will still get erections.
Oh, yeah, I
a
know a lot of really old guys who are well able to keep it up. I mean, I'm talking, people who are thousands of years old.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to need to worry about
good.
I thought that would create Drake to say something there. Okay. I listened to a Tolek interview posted on June 1st. As far as what he says, this planet will be turning into 4D in this coming January, and any persons not wanting to become 4D will have an option to travel to another planet. Now, I have not followed Tolek, but I listened to things that Tanaath has been saying, and my question is, why are we worrying about it?
I don't know why we're worrying about it. We're worrying about it because it's new to people, and people have a lot of anxiety over things that they don't, that they're not fully familiar with, and that are completely outside the paradigm that they're used to. That's why people are worried about it. I'm not particularly worried about it. These things have a habit of taking care of themselves. Everything's going to be all right. Everything will work out. That doesn't absolve me of the necessity to do my work by any means. Nor does it absolve anyone else of attempting to do the self-work in order to, make this easier on themselves.
Yeah.
But,
I think the biggest question,
it's going to work. Things are going to be all right.
I think the biggest question, Tanaath, that people have is they keep asking, why are we worried about bringing down the cabal? They think that the ascension is going to correct all of that. And so why are we even concerned with bringing the cabal down?
The ascension is not going to correct all that. That's kind of more of a pacifistic attitude or approach in that,
Not pacifistic, passive.
Passive, yeah. And, I mean, there is a necessity to remove that element from the equation and make sure that, to the best of everybody's ability, that people are educated and prepared and know what they're, know as well as they can what they're going into. The ascension is not going to take care of the cabal. If the cabal are still here when ascension happens, they're going to ascend right along with everybody else.
It's going to be a lot harder for them to operate in the open. But I think even the fourth dimension can suffer from infiltration. We've just recently discussed the example of Kyla and the people of Procyon and the planet of Cana, which was systematically infiltrated and co-opted against the inhabitants' will, and in a large way against their knowledge and consent. getting rid of the cabal is one of these things that we should do because we don't want to permit the opportunity for that kind of continued systematic subjugation to take place at any level. It'll be harder for them to pull their bag of tricks, but that doesn't mean that the opportunity is completely gone for them to make life miserable for us. So we would really like to do our best to see that they're not in a position to do that to anyone ever again.
Okay, makes perfect sense. All right, I'm curious about an uncontacted indigenous tribes in places like the Amazon. What do you think about how we go about helping them with humanitarian projects if they are hostile to outside presences? How will we go about informing them about their choices to transition with us or to be relocated to a 3D planet?
Don't worry, that will be taken care of. We do have ways to visit those people without getting shot at, or, well, whether that's by a bow or something else, right?
Yes, we do.
It's not as impossible as people think. And just because they're uncontacted by other mainstream Western Terran civilizations doesn't mean that they're completely uncontacted.
Okay. What is your take on
most
organizing?
Likely,
oh, go ahead.
And then
Go ahead.
most likely, as far as those, what will be done is whoever their genetic progenitors are will be making the contact as much as that's possible, and it'll provide for probably a less impacting situation because they'll look very similar to those people.
And they'll speak the language.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. What is your ladies' take on organite? And does a small organite device really work, or does size matter when it comes to organite?
I know organite works. I'm not an expert in its use. I don't know if size matters or not. I do know that organite is incredibly useful and does a lot of great things. And gifting is a totally awesome thing. Gifting being the process of putting pieces of organite on or around or near things that are designed to cause harm so that they then start to cause help instead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm sure we could probably study that. We can Google it and find out if you know, like if they found.
There's other people who are way more expert in that than I am.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. If the movement of our planet in space causes us to ascend from 3D to 4D, then how have other beings ascended without this type of event?
A lot of time it's on a personal, individual level. Occasionally, entire planets will ascend. Then they usually, there is a recycling that goes on the surface, meaning that sentient inhabitants and animals are usually taken off. The planet recycles its surface, and then they come back, and they can resettle if they've also, if they're the right vibration. Anything that does not get taken off is pretty much recycled along with it. But it is not very frequently that an entire planet changes vibration like this. And it is not very frequently that an entire population undergoes this at the same time, simultaneously, with the planet.
Right. Okay.
As far as I've heard, it's actually the first time in the universe's history.
That's what they say anyway.
Okay, laughing out loud, are we on Earth the real dummies of the universe?
No. That kind of implies that it implies that you're stupid. You're not stupid. The people of this planet are very intelligent and capable of a lot more than they realize. We're not dummies. We've been lied to and tricked and oppressed and suppressed. That does not make us dummies. I get kind of upset at people, and I'll call them people even if they might not be from this planet, but people who suggest that Terrans are stupid because this has happened to us. No, it's not the case. I've got a great deal of sympathy, and after having lived my entire human lifespan on this planet, going through the same thing that everybody else is going through and seeing the same things everybody else is seeing and subject to the same traumas and indoctrinations and programmings that everybody else is, I cannot ever agree with the stance that we brought this on ourselves or we did this to ourselves. It's just not possible.
Okay. Next question is there a way for ET incarnates to find out for sure what their planet of origin is?
I've got a personal policy when it comes to telling people what they are. I don't do it. Why? I could be wrong. I could be mistaken. I could be seeing only part of it. And if I tell you this and you fixate on this, I limit your personal growth. So I won't do it. It's unethical.
Mm-hmm.
What I recommend is just finding meditation techniques that work for you as an individual and go deep within yourself and without anybody else influencing you in any direction, any way, telling you how to do it, what to say, what to think, what to ask. And ask your inner self, your inner voice, and find out for yourself, deep within yourself, what your planetary origins are and who you are, and what anything else you want to learn about yourself. It's the most purest form of what you can learn about yourself comes from within.
Exactly. It's got to come from inside you. If somebody else tells you, "Oh, you're Pleiadian," well, that may be true, it may not, but they've automatically tried to define you and limit you by doing that.
Okay.
Besides, there's more good guys than the Pleiadians out there, so...
And not all Pleiadians are good guys.
Exactly, and that seems to be everybody's default. Oh, you're from off-world, you're Pleiadian. No.
And one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten from Drake, and I hold on to it and remind myself every single day, accept no limitations.
Exactly. Accept no limitations and accept no imitations either.
Yeah.
Right. Is Drake still with us? You there, Drake?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening.
Okay, good. Okay.
Let's put it this way. I have taught some of this stuff, specifically using the movie The Matrix. It is up to the capability of an individual to get their head around the possibility that there's something more to all this than what is realized. You may not be able to taste, smell, and whatever with it, but then again, you just might. Until such time as you absolutely are assured by experiential ways that there is a difference between imagination and higher realities, everybody's kind of going, wow, man, I'm not sure. And that's fine. Just be sure of one thing. There is a not just possibility, but probability that there are no limitations, and that the limitations have been set by someone other than you, thereby taking away your freedom of your own imagination, your own capability of perception, and the fact that you are much more than what you know you are at this point. We're all due to take that giant leap for mankind here shortly, and all I'm trying to do is get you ready for the escalator.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay, next question is for Tanaath. On the Truth Frequency radio show, you stated that souls who incarnated here from higher dimensions will go back to their original dimension when the transition happens. Does this mean that their mission here will be completed and that they won't live out their lives here on Earth? And does this mean that after the transition there will no longer be any ET incarnates on Earth, only 4D Terrans?
Not necessarily. You see, there's a lot of work to be done healing this planet. So while they'll have the option to return to their home territory, so to speak, they'll also have the option to stay and help. I intend on sticking around at least a little while until, Earth has a stable defense force that it can use to protect itself from external threats. For instance, the Silver Legion is going to stay around for a bit, even though we do have other places to go and this isn't our home. I know a lot of Fae incarnates. Their real work is going to begin after, when they're going to start with helping with the healing of the Earth and recovering all the damage done to nature. So it really depends on the individual mission. Some people came here and came activated for the lead-up time. Other people came here and will get their real activation afterwards, and that's when the real party begins for them.
Okay. All right. A few questions for you, Sunfire. On the last show, you said the Arcturians were one of the taller human races. Could you describe how they look in a little bit more detail, their skin, hair, eye color, etc.?
Actually, that's probably something I wouldn't be able to do. They look human. They're a human race. They look human. And, if you take the average Terran and just stretch them to be a little bit more taller and a little on, the more, the more thinner side, then, it's probably about what you're going to get.
Okay. Have you had any interactions with them, and if so, what are they like? And what dimension are they from?
They're 4th, 5th, 6th dimension. I've had interactions and have a couple personal friends of mine that are Arcturian incarnates. So, as far as interaction with them on a physical level, it's been incarnates. On a dimensional level, my higher self has quite a few friends that are Arcturian. They work very closely with us and are part of the Federation, and being a Federation diplomat, I tend to interact with them quite often up there.
Okay.
And they're very nice, very pleasant people.
Okay, a question.
Very smart.
Okay. Tanaath and Sunfire, what are your respective Earth ages?
Oh, don't you know it's rude to ask a lady her age?
That's generally not considered polite on this planet. I'm in my 30s.
You're in your 30s, Tanaath? Okay,
yeah.
What about you, Sunfire also? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, you're both in your 30s. Okay, well, then I wouldn't be worried about them asking your age. When you get to be an old hag.
I was just making a joke out of it.
It's when you get to be an old hag like me that you resent that. Okay.
Nonsense, Denise. You are not a hag. You are not old either. Good Lord, we're all just children by the standards of most off-worlders.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the old part. I'm the old part here. I'm the old part here. I'm even older than Grammy J. So there.
Okay. And again, it's a number. So anyway, all right. Tanaath said that Hollow Earth residents have been evicted from the planet due to a request by Mother Earth. And why? And details, please. I thought that they were good people. How were they evicted, and where did they go?
Well, it turns out that they had something to do with keeping the status quo. So they were kind of kicked out on the basis of that. Gaia is really, really not happy about anyone trying to clip her wings. And she's letting them know in no uncertain terms. Now, they were evacuated somewhere else. I don't like them enough to really keep tabs on where and why.
Tell her, I don't know if you can, but share about what Gaia said when one of our diplomats asked what her opinion was.
I don't remember the words.
I thought basically what it was is it was one of the ones that were protesting the loudest, and she dumped a boulder on their head.
Oh, right, that. One of the ones who was protesting against it, and she just, yeah, I remember that one. That wasn't words, yeah. One of the people there was stridently objecting to this measure, and, well, a part of the cavern fell down and crushed his head, followed by a small earthquake. So, I mean, she made her opinion quite firmly known.
Yeah, wasn't it that our diplomat said, well, let's see what Gaia's opinion is on this? And then the boulder fell?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. They're getting personal, ladies. They're getting personal here. Question for both girls. Question for both girls. Could you describe yourselves a little? Your age, your looks, your height, maybe?
I'd prefer not to. For one thing, I don't exactly fit into what most North Americans or Westerners would consider to be the beauty ideal. My body's the wrong shape, and I don't really give much care to vanity. So I don't. All of these people who are trying to cook up some fantasies about me, I'm sorry, I'm really not all that fantastic. Sorry.
As a diplomat, I have to say that's classified.
Okay.
Classified information right now.
Okay. I think they're trying to figure out what incarnates, would look like. Okay, like they
I look like everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. If there are blockages in one's spine, will that prevent the Kundalini from rising or ascension, and will it dramatically increase the heartbeat while it's happening? Is there anything in our physicality that can prevent ascension?
No.
No.
Okay. And there won't be a dramatic increase in your heartbeat or anything if you have a blockage in your spine, right?
I have no idea about the heartbeat, but it's not going to stop you from ascending.
Okay. Also, I keep hearing singing choirs when I awaken in the morning. Is that anything that has to do with ascension?
No, you need to get better space between you and church.
Is that or it's your guardians waking you up? They figure you probably like to hear singing when you're waking up, and so your guardians are like, "Hey, let's sing them a song and greet them as they wake up every morning."
My husband has had health issues with his stomach since before he was 19 years old. Will people with these long-standing problems that had them at an early age go back to their 20s or 30s, will they still have no health issues, or if they had them when they were young, will they have the same health issues?
You'll be a physically ideal version of yourself.
Okay.
Meaning that you won't have any of those long-term health issues. If you've been, a colitis sufferer since your childhood, you won't be a colitis sufferer anymore. Things like that.
Okay, good. Okay.
And I was just going to recommend it. I know Tanaath is more of an expert on this, but if he's having long-standing stomach issues, I would suggest looking into a gluten-free diet. And talking to your doctors about that.
IBS is gluten intolerance in many cases, or other intolerances. Try eliminating things like gluten, grain products. If you're having a lot of trouble, you can try eliminating dairy and egg and see how that helps.
Eliminate McDonald's.
Yeah, I really don't recommend that. Eating that. Get rid of the corn syrup.
Right. People here are concerned with red meat, and they're trying to go vegan and vegetarian when in actuality human beings are omnivores, we're both meat and vegetable eating creatures. But we were never meant to be fried food eaters and
or processed seed oil eaters.
Yeah, exactly. We're not like eating a chemical diet. But neither are our pets or anything. If people should notice that if they feed their dogs cheap crap dog food, that's got all GMO processed corn and this, that, and the other thing in it, and they feed it to their animals, and they wonder then, well, gee whiz, how come when I feed Fluffy, cheap crap dog food, his hair falls out, and my dog, gets cataracts and he can't see anymore? Well, it's kind of the same thing,
Yeah, and people wonder now why their dogs and stuff are getting fat. It's not because you're feeding them too much. It's not because they're not getting enough exercise. It's because they're eating wheat and other toxins. Don't feed your dog corn. Don't feed your dog soy. Don't feed your dog wheat. If you have to cook them a dinner to get them a good food, well, that's better than feeding them the stuff that comes out of a bag and is labeled balanced. It's like these nuts over in the 6 to 10 servings a day place decided, oh, well, we'll say whole grains are good for you, and then we'll feed them to everything, and they don't really care if your cat dies or your dog dies or the misery that brings you. They're obligate carnivores. Feed them what carnivores need to eat. That's meat.
Yep. Really. Okay.
A little bit of vegetable roughage, not more than about 10% of the diet.
Okay. Next question. Will those who stay in 3D have an even tougher time fighting off the Dracos?
No, because, we plan on reducing the Draco population significantly enough. That won't be a factor, for one. For another, they're going to a planet that will be protected. There's not going to be any more sleeping on the job.
Okay.
And as far as I understand it, it's in an area that is deep within the what they call the what is the term they call it, the neutral zone, where there's like no, where it's really protected and there isn't like a huge exposure to like wars and battles and incursions and that sort of thing.
Here's another question that we've answered many different ways, many different times, but let's see. Drake is saying that some things are going to disappear. What about our homes? My home is part brick and part vinyl siding. Will the vinyl siding and gutters suddenly just be gone?
Honestly, I don't know what's going to persist and what's not going to persist. I wouldn't worry too much about it. You're going to have what you need.
Right. That's what I'm trying to.
It's not worth getting scared over.
Right. Our needs are going to be met, and you're going to find that if your vinyl rain gutters do fall off, that maybe you won't have the rain that you used to have, and you won't have a need for vinyl rain gutters anyway. Whatever.
The climate of this planet is changing too, so that's what is appropriate for your climate situation now might not be appropriate for your climate situation then. A lot's going to have to be redone anyway. So, I think a lot of this talk underlying it is, I think, the fear of losing
the unknown
stuff. Yeah, and of losing stuff. Don't get attached to it. Like anybody who's ever had a house fire knows, one good fire and it's all gone anyway. So don't get attached to stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I've been through hurricanes.
Look at all these places that are experiencing flooding. The hurricanes, the tornadoes.
The things that really, really matter, you'll still have them. The things that don't matter, you won't need them and you won't want them.
Yeah, concern yourself with yourself.
And then when you get to 4D, you can manifest anything, instantly.
Yeah, you can learn how to manifest your own. So if you really wanted vinyl siding, you could have vinyl siding.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Did you all listen to Carrie Cassidy's interview with Aaron Green Hicks, a.k.a. Aaron Rothschild? And if so, can you speak a little about the validity or accuracy of the information that is presented by Carrie Cassidy regarding parallel universes or dimensions and the struggle between good and evil and what is going to happen in the future? She said that she knows, but she can't say because the people of the planet aren't ready to hear it. That sounds ominous to me.
Ooh.
That does sound pretty ominous. I would have to say I'm not too concerned. I'm not familiar with the material, so I really can't weigh in on it. But I do know a few things about alternate timelines and alternate realities and parallel universes. And I gotta say that, honestly, we don't need to worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is that Cassidy listens to a lot of fear porn, okay?
Yeah, she's pretty up on the fear porn.
Yeah, as are a number of other people. Okay. All right. You have previously mentioned that the planet Andron is an all-gay planet. Its star is Antares, which is enormous in size compared to our sun. Our sun would be about the size of a pinhead compared to Antares. I'm curious to know.
Antares is a red giant.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how large Andron is compared to Terra, and what the approximate population of Andron will be. Do the male and
Andron's
female
got about 500 million people.
And
just about the same as most of us.
Yeah, okay, and then the other question was, and do male and females live interminglingly in communities on Andron?
No, a funny thing happens with Androni communities. They do live in mixed communities, and they get along pretty good. For all that, they might not want to be taking each other home from the nightclub. The women run civil society almost entirely, and the men run the military almost entirely.
Okay.
So it's, they definitely have their separate spheres, and they like it that way. There is opportunity for crossover for those who are inclined.
Okay. I've heard.
As for how large the planet is large enough that it has 3 times the gravity of Earth. So they tend to be short and compact and very, very muscular compared to us. And they also tend to be very strong.
Okay. All right.
Well, gotta watch your arm wrestling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They look like Greek gods, basically, for those that
little
are
short Greek gods.
Yeah, little short Greek gods. Greek gods. I mean, they're wonderful. They're wonderful people. They're the genetic progenitors of the Greeks. So.
Okay. All right. Next question. I've heard that some UFO shows are talking about the off-world civilizations that think that Terrans are stupid or useless or whatever else. And then they spoke of how most of them have arrogance issues. What sort of civilizations would hold these opinions?
Oh, the reptoids for sure.
Yeah, the reptoids, the Alcyons, who were the ones that sold Terra to the reptoids. They're out there. They exist way up, into the higher dimensions. There's
a few bungholes running around who suffer from massive superiority complexes. We like to take them down a peg or two when we catch them.
Yeah. Okay. Higher dimensional does not automatically mean better.
Yeah, you're not going to turn into a sexless ball of light, and unfortunately there is still differences of opinion to quite high dimensions. And there are still people who suffer from inflated opinions of their own self-worth in relation to others.
Okay.
You mean there's egos up there?
Yes, there are in fact egos at higher dimension, although I'm sure there are a lot of people who would like to tell you that this is not the case in order to make you think that they don't have agendas. But yes, some people still do have egos at higher dimension. You see less of it, especially among positive societies, and it isn't quite so all-consuming, but there are people who still have egos and suffer from ego issues. It's just less common.
Oh, okay.
Okay, question for Drake, and then after Drake answers it, they want to hear the same answer from Tanaath. If we are going to live hundreds of years, and there are 6 billion or more people on the earth now, and if willing, we will be able to just create babies, will there be enough room for all of us? It seems like there will be an awful lot of us roaming around.
Well, first of all, not everybody's going to go into the next dimension. A lot of people will opt out. Right, Drake?
Yeah, well, what I've been hearing from the people is very simple. A lot of people are not going to even entertain the idea. So therefore, they're going to have to go somewhere else. It's not an option because the planet is going through the transition, and everything on it goes with the planet. So the other part of this is that if somebody had an option, and I'm gonna put this as plain and simple as I know how to do it. If you had an option, you can putz around on the planet here, or you, now think about this, as in Star Trek, can get some training and go flitting around the universe. What would you choose to do? I'd be willing to guess I bet you we're going to lose half the population, especially younger folks who are out there going, "Wow, man, I can dig tooling around the universe." I think we'll probably lose half of whoever stays here just to go out and explore. That's my opinion. Pretty
much, yeah. You think I've heard estimates varying between 40% and 60% of the population will choose not to ascend. So there's going to be a good chunk of people that don't want to. And again, this is choice. Don't want to, not forced not to, not forcibly evicted, don't want to. And then there's the chunk who are incarnate and aren't necessarily going to be considered Terrans. Then there's the naturalized Terrans who will also have the chance to go back to their original home worlds or their home people. And then there's the chunk that's left over, many of whom probably get space fever and want to get out there and start exploring. We're thinking that it's probably going to be about around 1 to 2 billion people who opt to stay on a permanent or semi-permanent basis on this planet. And from them, they're not all going to be clamoring to reproduce right away. It's typical to have 100 years or more between children. It is not typical to have bucket loads of children unless your species is dying out and you really, really need to repopulate. I mean, you're not going to see things like the quiver folds going on at that level. It's unheard of.
Also, a population that's left to its own devices, much like any other animal species that's on a planet, it'll self-regulate. Yeah.
And there's no need for monsoons and disasters either.
Well, the generation presently is semi-mobile and would like to be able to tool around. And I'm telling you, I mean, I can just see the teenagers in their hot rod spaceship cruising the universe. I can really see that.
Oh yeah, and organizations such as mine will plan on recruiting. And I'm pretty sure we got a lot of takers, people who are interested in joining an outfit such as the Silver Legion. And, won't be quite like, join the army, they said, see the world, they said. It's going to be a lot more fun than that.
Yeah, and I mean, there'll be options, and opportunities for people that want to join the Federation. Even if they don't want to join as part of a member planet, they can still join as an individual. We don't prevent that from happening.
Okay. All right. One of our listeners wants Toph to talk about the final solutions, if possible, please.
The final solution? I don't know. What? Are you talking about Hitler's final solution? Because, we don't condone that.
I don't know. I was just
this is the futuristic final solution. It's a combination of things, and it is sort of a combination Hitler solution and the possibility, and this is one of the outtakes on it, was that so many people would get so interested in going someplace else that nobody would be home. That the human race might not even come back, even to their home world. And those, you're getting into the Twilight Zone make-believe areas that the probabilities are almost negligible. They don't. It's almost impossible to have something of that nature take place. So, the final solution of ET being all that in terms of superior and lording it over us is not going to happen. I know them, and they're not like that. Second part is that what they're going to do is to help us become as much as possible the way, not only the way we were supposed to have been in the first place, but to arrive and even exceed the levels that they are at, the ideal of a teacher or a mentor. Okay?
Okay.
There are allies with. We do have allies who go by the philosophy of speak softly and carry a big stick. And the Cabal are well aware of this, so I'm not too sure how much they want to push the limits of that.
Okay. All right, here's a question. My mom has an aneurysm in her brain and just got rushed to the hospital. If she passes, will I see her when we ascend, or is there a way that if I pray more than normal that she'll be okay and stay till ascension? I lost my dad already, and I'm not ready to lose my mom.
We can't control life and death. Things like that, trust that your mom will be there for you. Whether it's in the fourth dimension, whether it's here, she'll be there for you.
Okay.
We don't have the means right now to physically intervene. There is the concept of somebody's time. For instance, when it's somebody's time, there's not much you can do. I don't know if this is the case with your mom. I don't know if you can pray her well. Certainly we talk about the power of positive thought and attraction, the principle of attraction. Those things certainly won't hurt your mother.
Okay.
But I can't give you a definitive answer on that, other than to say that you're not going to lose her, and you're not going to lose her permanently. She'll be there for you.
Okay. We still have page after page after page of questions, so I'm going to try to shoot these, and we'll try to get them as rapidly answered as possible, Kane.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. Okay, I would be interested in knowing a little bit more about Sunfire. We know little about her. Where does she live? Based on her use of the English language, she sounds like she was maybe born and raised in the U.S. and made to live near me.
Well, I am in the United States. I'm a Talsidian incarnate, and I'm a diplomat for the Galactic Federation of Planets. That's honestly about all I can say right now.
Okay. Let's see. These are questions for mainly Sunfire. Who was the first race of beings in the Milky Way galaxy, and who created or brought them here?
As far as I know, from what I know of galactic history, it was the Lyrans, and we, beyond that, I don't know who exactly created them. There's, they may have came from a different galaxy at this point. I think they even may have been from the Andromeda galaxy.
Okay, and do we know what race created our solar system?
Source created our solar system, but from the original creation, there's been multiple races that are capable of geoengineering planets, stars, that kind of thing, that have been, since the dawn of time, or dawn of existence of this universe anyway, making changes and tweaking things and doing this and doing that. And so, they've all had involvement in making changes to the solar system since it was created.
Okay. What race created Earth/Gaia/Terra and all the living plants and creatures on her?
Earth was created in the Ursa Major system. I don't know who specifically as a race created the planet. It was moved here from that system, and it's been moved about 3 or 4 times since, and there's been multiple different races that have contributed to the plant life and animals and human populations as well. It's like hundreds of different races.
Okay. Who was the first race of beings on planet Earth, and who created or brought them here? If they were created and not brought here, how were they created?
It was humans. The reptoids like to claim that they were here first. They weren't. It was humans. And as far as who created them, Source. Likely either Source or some other higher dimensional beings that create populations of humans and other different races and beings. I don't know who specifically.
From what galactic race or races did Filipinos originate? Or were they just originated with the rest of humans?
I believe it is that they're just like an offshoot of the Asians, and most of the Asian races were created by a combination of a large influence of Procyon and Androni, combining their genetics and just kind of seeing what happened. I know there's been some reptoidal influence in the Asians, but it's mostly a combination of Procyon and Androni.
I think there's some of the are some like the vegans, and I'm not talking about people who eat vegetables. I'm talking about from the Vega star system.
The Vegas were, I think that was one of the questions that somebody asked. The Vegans were the predecessors to the Syrians, the Nakota, the African Americans, Amazonians. Because the Lyrans and the Vegans were two of the founding races of the Milky Way galaxy, from what I understand. And the Lyrans were the ones that were behind most of the lighter-skinned races, and the Vegans were the ones that were behind more of the darker-skinned races.
Okay. Can all of the 3D humans in other planets and other universes remember their past lives? Is ability to remember past lives a universal or normal attribute for a 3D sentient species throughout the universe?
It's normal for everybody across the board, and all other 3D races that have not been manipulated by the reptoids or some other race to not remember their past lives, do remember the past lives. The reason why the majority of Terrans don't is because of the intervention on a genetic and DNA level of the reptoids, the Anunnaki, when they were messing around, and the various veil systems that have been put in place and are being slowly peeled away. The various soul traps and memory wipes, soul wipes and that kind of thing.
Okay. Let's see. Can you comment on if or what you are doing now to help disarm much of the direct tragedies that are happening to humanity on our planet?
A lot of that's tactical information that I can't reveal. It's classified.
Okay.
I have to say that's a very good answer. We're keeping a close eye on the situation, and we're aware of things that are going on, and we're doing what we can. But like Sunfire just said, that's tactical information, and we'd rather not advertise everything we're doing to stymie the other side.
Gotcha. Exactly. Yeah, just like Drake and stuff.
In battle, you don't give your playbook to the other side any more than you do when you have a football game.
Right. Okay. Are all human species oxygen breathing in the universe? Could you also give examples of sentient races or of nitrogen breathers or methane breathers or even CO2 breathers? And also, can an oxygen breathing mate with a nitrogen breather? If so, how would that work? And how about their offspring? Would they be simply both oxygen or nitrogen breathers?
Oh my goodness. What a loaded question.
Yeah.
There's not only among the humans, but among all the other sentient species, there's all different types of breathers. One of the most commonly well-known nitrogen breathers is the Draco reptoid. As far as cross-breeding between two different breathers, I don't know if that's even possible. I certainly have not heard of it being possible.
Okay. All right. Next question. I'm experiencing everything, including myself, as not being real. It's really hard to describe in words. I think it is a matter of perception, but it wasn't always like this. It's like I seem to perceive the world subconscious instead of consciously now. What might be happening? It's similar to thinking while biking, and all of a sudden you become aware of the fact that you are at your final destination without remembering what kind of areas you passed, kind of oblivious. Again, I have trouble with describing this. Does either Drake, Tanaath, or Sunfire know what this might be?
I've heard of it. I'm not deeply familiar with it, but I have heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a whole lot of things that people are going to experience that they have not experienced before. Those are not very limited in terms of what a person might see, have in a dream, or suddenly feel. As we approach the transition, more and more sensitivities of all different kinds are going to start popping out. It's kind of like when you was a teenager and your skin popped out sort of deal. You know, it's saying, hey, you got raging hormones. Well, in this case, the pimples are in your mind. And if you understand the difference between realities in terms of what happened on the Matrix in comparison to what our supposed reality is, who says our reality is different than that? Think about it. So, possibilities, perceptive capability, the willingness of a person to think about the possibilities that there are things going on. They're being told about them, but not everything. We can't cover each individual. You got a set of fingerprints that's different from everybody else. So you act, react, and perceive just slightly differently than others. The ideal is to get the general information out so that you can get a handle on it and not be scared to the point of defecation at the point where, somebody flips the switch and off we go.
Everyone, this may sound rather silly, but I've been told that the creases on one's hands, the palms of their hands, cause certain identifying marks to appear when their palms are cupped and are an indication of what star race a person may be descended from. Supposedly, if you look at your slightly cupped palm, you will see either a capital M or an S. The M would designate that you are descended from Lemurians, and the S would designate that you are a descendant from the reptilians or snake race. Archons from Atlantis, kind of brand or owners, mark, so to speak. Is this true? I've also seen this on a video on YouTube that says that there's a barcode on your DNA designating your star race. Would that be true?
That's the first time I've ever heard of that.
I got a V on my hand.
A B?
A V. You seen that movie V? Oh.
I would say that pretty much none of that's true, because there's more than just the Lemurians and Atlanteans, and the Atlanteans were not the Archons. And
okay.
I mean, like I said earlier, and I've said multiple times, there are 22 to 25 different races of humans that have contributed to the genetic engineering of the current Homo sapiens, humans, Terrans, whatever you want to call them. So, to narrow it down that far would be, unwittingly putting limits on people that, unwittingly putting limits where there shouldn't be any.
Okay. All right, a couple more questions from this same person. And again, we're going to try and rush through because we've still got so many questions to answer. Tanaath mentioned in the last show that some of the peoples living in the hollows of Earth are the bad guys and that the Argathians are neutral. I understand that. The last remaining refugee, Lemurians from Mu, are living in a city called Telos under Mount Shasta in California. Is that true, and are they physical or energy beings, and where would their alliances lie?
They're like fifth or sixth dimension. Yes, they're really there. They're not exactly on the happy list right now.
And
it was a Telosian that got the roof dropped on him.
Okay. All right.
And weren't they removed? And also
I do believe they were.
Yeah, and also there's a difference between Lemuria and Mu. It's one of the things that really, I guess, grinds against it the wrong way. Lemuria was where Malaysia is, and Mu Pacifica is the big continent in the middle of the Pacific. So they're not one and the same, despite what many are trying to cause confusion over.
Okay. Next question is, Tanaath, there's an old story that the unicorns, which were created on Atlantis, are enemies of the dragon race. Is that your race or the reptilians? The answer will tell me whether or not unicorns are evil or not. And as I have been told that they were created with fully active 12-strand DNA and are higher dimensional creatures.
They're not enemies of dragons, but they definitely are enemies of reptilians. Unicorns, Pegasi, and alicorns, or if you want to call them unipegs, are, well, I wouldn't say they were created here, but there were populations brought here. Many positive planets have unicorns, Pegasi, and unipegs. And you don't own one of them. They own you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
As a dragon who is currently owned by a unipeg, I can attest to this.
Okay.
Kazar, in no uncertain terms, lets me know what he thinks about my choices in, for instance, romantic partners and whatnot, and considers he has quite a bit of input into my life. No, I can choose to argue with him, but he makes his opinion known.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of like, when you try to argue with a unipeg, you're staring at something that has about a 2.5 to 3 foot tall, razor sharp horn that can use it not only for stabbing things, but can also use it to throw energy around. And like any other horse, equine species, they've got legs and they know how to use them.
Uh-huh. Okay, this last question from this person is for Tanaath. Tanaath, I swear I've heard your voice before. In fact, your voice is so familiar to me that I can almost picture your face in my mind, but it's blurry. So just on the off chance that I have seen you somewhere, you wouldn't happen to be a Canadian actress who has appeared on TV or movies, would you? I don't mean that
Oh, heck no.
to out you, or so don't answer if you don't want to. If not, I will just continue to try to figure out where I know you from. I mean you no disrespect. It's just driving me crazy and distraction trying to figure out where I might know you from.
I am a Canadian. I am a private citizen. I have, to the best of my knowledge, never been in the public eye.
Okay.
So you're never going to have seen me on a YouTube video. You're never going to have seen me on television or anything like that, because I've never made a deliberate appearance on any of those.
Okay. I have a question I would like to have answered, please. I understand that we are receiving help cleaning up our skies from different space crews. However, I'd like to know why these chemtrail planes are even allowed to take off and continue to spray the world. If nukes have been disabled, why can't the chem planes also be disabled?
That is a very, very convoluted answer or question to answer. There are a lot of reasons why we cannot just willy-nilly stop them. A lot of them have to do with making sure that we don't wrongfully take out innocents, and also with making sure we don't give any fodder to the false alien invasion scenario that they want to spin so badly. We would really, really like to ground them permanently, and we are working on that. But again, that falls into the realm of confidential operational information.
And also priorities and resources. We don't, when it comes to deciding about dealing with, a potential EMP attack or, false flag nuclear attack, or grounding a bunch of chemtrail planes, with something that is not an immediate threat to the global population, and you only have so many resources, what are you going to do? You're going to take something out, and deal with something that's a, immediate, imminent threat to the global population, or are you going to deal with something that's about as annoying as a fly?
Okay. Here's a complicated question. Any information on the current operational state of the Nibiruan Crystal Temple Network, NCTN, communication system of Earth, which was Anunnaki-controlled via the Net Nibiruan Diodic Crystal Grid, NDCG, at Stonehenge, England? Yeesh.
Whoa, I don't think Stonehenge was having anything to do with that. Stonehenge was doing something else.
Okay. I've never heard
I
of
hear Drake laughing. You got a comment there,
yeah,
Mr.?
I've never heard of the Nibiruanian Crystal Temple Network.
First of all, it's got Nibiru in there, and people just love their Nibiru, but I'm sorry, Nibiru is not a factor anymore.
I would say anything that has the word Anunnaki or Nibiru in it, it's not a threat, or it's already been dealt with, or it's a bunch of horse talk.
Or it's a small band of holdouts that really don't have enough oomph to take their threats off.
If we cannot stop all the planes from taking off, the chemtrail planes, and if you are in the process of cleaning up the skies, why are those nasty white, black, purple, and gray toxic clouds still left behind that are blocking our once beautiful blue skies and blocking our sun?
It's a process. It's a process, not an on-off switch. We keep cleaning up. They keep spraying. Sooner or later, they're going to have to run out of resources to do so, at which point we will still keep spraying or cleaning up the spraying. So there's, honestly, we're not the ones who are dictating what they're putting up in the sky. We're just doing our best to clean up after it. It will get taken care of one way or another eventually. It's not necessary to freak out over it in the meantime.
Yeah,
I mean, if it gets you hot enough under the collar that you step up and do something about it, and by do something I don't mean throw a fit, I mean do something constructive about it, then it's motivated you to do something and make a positive change. But complaining about when we're going to fix the problem isn't going to help much. We're doing what we can right now. We're limited. Our hands are tied. When our hands are no longer tied, we'll do more.
Right. One of our listeners is suggesting, why don't we just disassemble the damn planes on the ground? That would take care of the problem.
Well, you disassemble them, they'll just put them back together, or they'll make more.
Yeah.
And they're not just using straight chemtrail planes. They're putting the chemtrails mixture in passenger jets of, people that are using, public air transportation. And that, creates another problem because they know we won't go after, the passenger jets because of, our desire to protect as many innocent lives as possible. And they're using that to their advantage right now.
Okay. All right, next question. The civilization under Mount Adams in Washington State, are they the same race of people as those that are under Mount Shasta in California? I would think that there must have an underground connection between them somehow. Did you get that?
Yeah, Sunfire, is that something that you...
As far as I understand it, there's been a great battle for the base or area under Mount Adams for a long time. There was positives that lived under there, and then they were kicked out by the Greys, and somewhere along the way there was, some reptoids that came in and kicked them out, and then there was some other race that came in and kicked the reptoids out, and now they're there, and I honestly don't know who they are. I don't know if they're positives, neutrals, negatives. I do know, given that we mentioned earlier that Telos was cleaned out, there's probably no connection between the two.
That's right. Table music chairs down there.
They also wanted to know, and it appears not, that if either of you have visited any of these underground places or if you know of anybody that has.
You wouldn't be able to get me to set foot in one of those places without a huge and able bodyguard.
And we do have some of our diplomats that have visited down there frequently, and that is part of the initial negotiations, and they got that area got cleared out. So
I read that there are more and more special children with special abilities and DNA which is resistant to disease. They have often been referred to as indigo children. The article has also stated that their DNA resistance is spreading to other people. Is this true?
They're actually indigo, crystal, rainbow. It's all another term for incarnate, basically. And from what I understand, they're being born with between 3 and 4 DNA strands instead of the normal 2 that other people have. And that's where they're getting this DNA, this resistance and all that from is the extra strands of DNA.
Okay. Question, I'm seeking the truth. Specifically, I'm interested in the history of the planet Earth. How or where could I find information on the history of Earth and our galaxy and past interactions with other beings? I imagine I could find all of this maybe on the Akashic records, but I've also heard that it is a compilation of everything that was ever thought by not necessarily just what actually happened, which is what I'm looking for. Or is there not one truth of our history? Is it all subjective and everyone has their own truth, and sometimes it lines up with other people's truth? I also want to learn to astral travel with the intent of contacting the Silver Legion and offering my talents to their cause. Could this information be learned there?
I would suggest, as far as anybody wanting to learn any proximity of any real truth about the real history of the planet and the galaxy, start with things like there's a book called Worlds Before Our Own, and I believe it's by Brad Steiger. There was a website called Forgotten Ages Research by Joseph Robert Jockman that was taken down, and you guys can find any of his articles. Also, Defending Sacred Ground by Alex Collier is a good introduction to the history of the galaxy and Terra. And then if you can access the Akashic records, then I would say kind of fly around there. But there is very minimal in the public world of any accurate history. Ancient Aliens TV series, they have a lot of important information, very valuable and valid information.
If you can stand the host.
Well, yeah, if you can stand the host. The only thing I have to say about Ancient Aliens, the only thing that bugs me about that series is, well, they're putting all this information out that is very valid and very useful and really good. They're still trying to fit it in too short of a time frame. the human population has been around 400, 500,000 years as in its current form, and they're still trying to kind of smash it all down into about 10,000 years. So it's like, take what they're telling you and just stretch it out a lot further.
I'm going to add something to that.
Go ahead.
I wrote that book specifically to give people the basics for how to in terms of astral travel. Get it, study it, practice it, it works. It gives you the basics. The information in there is condensed. In other words, you really got to study it in order to get out of it what it has in it. As you practice it, it'll become a reality. It'll become a reality.
Yes, and I will share with everyone.
I think that's
there is a link. Go ahead,
that's
Drake.
on the website, isn't it, Denise?
Yes, it is. I was going to share that is on your website on AmericanNationalMilitia.com. And if you get past the black area with the different links, and then you go down to where you would actually read the link, it's off to the right-hand side at the top of the column, and it's got it's like a brown cover, and it's Me, Myself, and I, Multiplicity, and you click on the book, and it will take you to the Lulu website where you can purchase the book.
So also, I wanted to just add, a few other really good authors to check out would be, David Hatcher Childress, and books like The Forbidden Archaeology, Forbidden History, the books that explore history that isn't part of the written history form, and don't dump a bunch of religious indoctrination on top of it. Anything along those lines, you're going to find, a lot of very valuable information. Also, check out mythology, and as much mythology that hasn't been, put out in the public forum. The older the book, the better when it comes to mythology, because there's a lot of real, true history in the mythology.
Okay. Let's see. Have civilizations on other planets in 4D do they have, in 4D, have a movie industry like Hollywood, like we do? And if so, what would be your favorite extraterrestrial movie, girls?
Not quite the same. I mean, there is various forms of entertainment. There's quite a thriving holo adaptation or holodeck industry in which you can get holodeck programs. And when I say industry, these things are just given and traded around to anyone who wants them, because we don't use currency and we don't have a financial system. But yeah, there is entertainment out there. People love movies. People love reading. People love playing in the holodeck. In the arena too, which functions very similarly to the holodeck in that regards. There's a group that is making a hobby of copying a lot of our media and transferring it or adapting it to the holo or even to the arena. If anybody here is familiar with Skyrim, there is an arena program that permits you to play Skyrim in fully immersive first person. Forget screen and mouse. You're running around and using your bow and collecting armor as you go and things like that. So there is fun in games. There is entertainment. There is things that are similar to movies. There are creative endeavors. There are people who like to write and make stories and things like that. So, you're not going to lose that.
There's even nightclubs.
Oh, yeah, there's nightclubs, especially on Amazon.
Yep. There's one of the things they just opened recently, and I was being encouraged to talk about it on Zeta. I know we talk about that planet a lot. They took, from here on Terra, they took a scan of every single roller coaster in existence, and they modified them to operate in Zeta's, atmosphere and on, within the conditions that are natural to Zeta, improved the safety of them, improved the excitement and fun parts of them, and they opened this huge roller coaster amusement park.
That's
and it's
cool.
like every roller coaster in the world. And there, as far as what I've been told, they're adding to it constantly because there's different like ship designers and other designers that are like coming up with these ideas for different roller coasters. And
I bet my bacon-loving brother would really, really enjoy that.
I'm sure it's become a really big hit. I mean, they said they've got people coming from all over the galaxy just to visit.
Fly on the roller coasters. I do know that they like to camp. A lot of them like to camp. My bacon-loving brother followed me in spirit projection last year when I went quadding, fell in love with quadding, developed a hover quad of his own that was designed to basically function like a quad without doing the same sort of damage to the animals and the flora that a terrestrial quad does, and now hover quads all over the place. I wouldn't be shocked to find out he's also monopolizing the roller coasters.
From what I've heard, he spends a lot of time when he gets his shore leave. He goes and spends a lot of time on the roller coaster amusement park. And they even put in like cotton candy and ice cream and popcorn stands and
with all the poison removed.
Yes, and I'm being told that they even have like fruit juice stands. They don't have sodas, but they have like juices and stuff, and various like fruit stands and that kind of thing. That the equivalent of the food that's normal to Zeta, and what they found that they really like here on Terra and made Palestinian versions of it.
Okay, do either of you have a favorite Terran or Earth E.T. movie? Like E.T.
favorite
or
movie.
Like the movie E.T.
I got favorite book.
A favorite book?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny because there's one book I read when I was a little kid by an author called Mercedes Lackey. Turns out that just like we pick up on certain quote unquote fictional universes here, other universes also get those fictional universes too. And I caught Admiral Mander reading a version of this book written on another universe in another language that was much more explicit than our version.
Okay.
That.
Okay.
I think probably my favorite as far as ET alien movies and stuff, the movies from Star Trek: The Next Generation. I can't emphasize enough the need for people to go out and watch Star Trek if they really want to see what life is like up in space. Go watch Star Trek.
Okay. Yeah, it was asked before if on Drake's last show, actually, I believe it was, if the people who wrote Star Wars, were like maybe incarnates and had, like in particular they mentioned the bar scene.
Right. Star Wars is based on the Lyran Wars, which happened about 4 billion years ago, and from what I understand, there was this very wise ET that we know personally among the group that mentored Lucas and his team, and the character of Yoda was actually based on him.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Let's get on with the questions because we've got bazoodles of them. Okay. All right. I'm curious how it is with studying and teaching generally in 4D and on other planets. I remember a scene from the movie Matrix where Neo learned Kung Fu in a few hours or a few minutes. Is something like that going to be possible?
Yeah, we do that with languages. Now, I don't have that capacity right now, but after the transition I will. I know that it generally takes a few hours to get the language and a couple of days for it to settle in fully. Most of the people I know speak upwards of 40 or 50 language fluently.
Okay.
And that includes off-world languages. So it's really not that difficult a process.
Okay. All right.
It was made more difficult for us in order to make it harder for us to communicate, and also to discourage us from coming together on our similarities, keep us divided. That whole divide and conquer philosophy.
Probably, for those that are into languages, the most complicated language in the entire universe that is known is the universal symbol language. And here's a little tidbit for those that are really into Sanskrit and think it's a dead language. It's actually one of the most commonly used business languages in interactions between the Andromeda Galaxy and the Milky Way Galaxy. And as far as general education, because people live longer, the education generally lasts a minimum of 200 years, but can go upwards of 300 to 500 years, depending on, if somebody wants to be a specialist in one thing or another, or whatever, education they want. But people never stop learning as long as they're alive.
The universal symbol language also makes really, really pretty crop circles.
Yeah.
And it's really hilarious because, some of these things that people swear are like the deep mysteries of the universe, they translate into things like stop the room, I need to get off.
Shut your mouth, you're attracting flies.
Yeah, they're just pranks, basically. Not all of them. Some crop circles are genuine usages of sacred geometry in order to help balance Terra. Some are communications with us directly. Some are threats to the reptilians. And some are just random things that somebody decided would be funny.
Doodling.
What was
right?
What was the one about coming in pieces?
Oh, yes. What was it? Something about I come in pieces? Where's the Ellen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing I'm looking forward to is that we won't have to push one for English anymore.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I know
Really?
one of the times when we were being funny and we had extra time and our space friends were bored, we were coming up with different things for them to put down in crop circles. And one of the ones, I don't know how many people recognize this, but one of the ones we did get them to put down was press lever, receive bacon.
Yes, push lever, receive bacon.
Okay.
And I like cheese is a popular one.
Okay, question for
These
Top
guys are the
and
world's
Sunfire.
biggest practical jokesters, really. They just love to play around, which is probably why for such a long time the Cabal did not take them seriously.
Really?
Well,
Okay, question for...
That's right up till we started playing jokes on the Cabal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we became tree-hugging hippies from space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, a question for Top and Sunfire. Have you met each other?
Not in meat space.
Yeah, not in the physical sense, but in the space sense and over eternity sense, we've been busted around the universe and multiverse since a very long time ago.
Well, before I started coming to Earth, we were best friends in Tau Ceti. We both have a common Tau Ceti and ancestry, I guess you could say, or we've both been Tau Ceti at the same time. And they called us Thunder and Sunlight. And we made about as much trouble as scattered showers.
Okay. Have you met Drake?
Again, not in meat space. My ability to travel is kind of perturbed at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'm getting my bikes fixed, so I will be traveling. You better watch it.
Oh no!
Ooh, you better
extra lock on that gate.
Yeah. I'm not allowed to have bikes in this apartment, Drake. What you gonna do?
Oh no.
Where's my lampshade? And then it would go hide.
I never can tell what I might do next. That's what the fun of this is.
Well, you're always welcome, and I'll cook you a good meal.
Oh, appreciate that.
Yeah, you're always welcome here too, Drake. You know I love you.
Okay. When we're in 4D, will temperature work the same way, like feeling hot and cold?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be probably your operating temperature range is going to be a little wider, so you're going to be a little more resilient.
All right.
But yeah, you'll still feel cold, you'll still feel warm, and you might like it a little hotter than you like it now, or a little colder than you like it now. It's
Okay. Since shapeshifters are real, are werewolves, vampires, gnomes, fairies, leprechauns, etc. real too?
Werewolves, yes. We prefer to call them theranthropes. Yeah, there are, I guess you could call them dual forms, shapeshifters who can vary between one form and one distinct other form, and perhaps in between stages. I guess you could call them like the theranthropes and the weirs. Vampiric creatures exist, some who drink blood, some who feed on energy of others, maybe because they can't produce it on their own or whatever reason. Gnomes, fairies, other things like that, those beings usually fall under the Fey kingdoms. They definitely exist. Gremlins, yep.
It's so much fun releasing gremlins on people we don't like.
Oh, I've had one say hello. It freaked me out until I realized it was just a gremlin saying hello.
I'm really interested in the answer that both Tanaath and Drake were trying to give when the end of the show was cut off last week about the Cabal and who was it?
Gordon Duff.
Gordon Duff and Marshall V. and
Gordon.
Summers, right? I don't want to
the show again.
This thing so soon.
Let's not and say we did.
Yeah, we still got an hour left of overtime, so we'll get to that one later.
Okay. All right. I'm a holistic healer, and I would like to go to school to learn live blood microscopy or whatever. But wonder if perhaps when we move into a fourth dimensional body, we will not require the services such as these.
Well, you know what? It's a good service in the meantime, so I wouldn't stop yourself from doing it. As we all know, timelines are fluid. It could be that something like that would have a transferable skill.
And then also, there are going to be a lot of the holistic, what we consider holistic and energy-type healing methods that are still going to be necessary and required in the higher dimensions. So it's a good time to start learning them now and, continue expanding your base knowledge of, various holistic, homeopathic, energetic, and all those other what they call quote-unquote alternative forms of healing.
Yeah, those things we call alternative, that's par for the course up there. That's how it's done. It's a whole organism focus as opposed to treat this symptom with this pill that then produces that symptom, which you then have to treat with that pill.
Okay. Can you give us an idea what kind of technologies Terrans have developed or re-engineered from off-world technologies? Not the devices themselves, but the types such as laser or holographic technology?
Well, you mentioned both right there. Laser, holographic technology, fiber optics. Internet.
Faster than light travel, anti-gravity, over Unity devices, sometimes known as free energy, which is a misnomer, because all our over Unity device does is connect to the source field.
Okay.
It's not making something out of nothing. There's something there. Yeah, some of the materials we now use commonly originally came from reverse engineering or different effect.
All right. Next question is Tanaath. If we project to the Silver Legion, is there a protocol or a series of events that we need to be privy to in order to enter the outpost? Or do we just keep our minds on going there, or do we seek a particular coordinate, if you will? I get lost in Walmart parking lot, just saying.
It's intent. It's all intent. I've said this a number of times. It really, really depends on your focus and your ability to maintain that directionality, because there is no coordinate The astral plane moves around, it shifts around constantly. So honestly, it's not like I can draw you a map or tell you where to go. You go to the Silver Legion. Depending on your focus and your intent, you can literally just take a couple steps and you'll be there, or it can be a long, winding journey. Try not to get too distracted by other things along the way. There is no protocol for entry. You just show up, say, hi, I'm interested in joining, and they'll talk to you more there. Make sure you do your 3 times test of anyone you meet, especially anyone who's claiming to be Silver Legion. Make sure that they're not somebody trying to pull a fast one by saying, oh, yeah, that's me, when it's not the case. So, look out for yourself, protect yourself, bring your guides along, travel in a group, and have fun.
All right. I would like to know how the arena or gaming/training in general will work and how it's implemented. Tanaath.
The implementation of the arena is, we'll call it a trade secret, but what it does is it allows you to experience and remember and do stuff without actually hurting yourself, really. So if you get your bottom kicked in the arena and you end up dead, you wake up in the arena ready room, kicking yourself over whatever mistake it was that ended you up dead, but fully able to remember and keep the training aspect of it, so that you can prevent it next time, or learn to work against it. We developed it as a training tool because we wanted what amounted to live fire exercises for our people that did not involve having to resurrect them and send them to the healers or whatnot. And that was the solution that we came across. And we decided to do this. We actually based it, if anybody ever played first-person shooters, we based it on the concept of frag matches. We said, well, hey, if you could do this in a game, we should be able to find a way to implement this, that we can do this and get the training benefits and the fun out of this without having to risk our people. And we gave it over to the Boffins, and sure enough, they found a way, and it's proved to be an immense success. Arenas are pretty...
I was going to say it's also a great place to deal with annoying twerks that are thorning your side for 5,000 years.
Oh, yes. It's proved to be a big hit with our extra-dimensional allies as well. We've disseminated the arena technology quite extensively among our allies. It's the Androni just absolutely adore it, which is probably not surprising at all. So yeah, it's one of the favorite aspects of the Silver Legion for many is the arena.
All of the conversations that I have been listening to are very interesting. However, I find myself thinking, are they getting all this information from science fiction movies and things like Star Trek? How can I definitively know that the aliens are real? Please help me to find a way to discern whether this is real or not. Either this is real or it has been the best scam since War of the Worlds radio show came out.
Well, if it's a scam, I'm not getting any benefit from it whatsoever.
And when you consider things like Star Trek are based on real life, reality, real ETs, and not the other way around, then, you take that into consideration and go out, stare at the night sky, ask for a light show, and you'll probably get one.
Well, and here's a little piece of supporting evidence. Have you ever tried to discuss something that you don't know anything about? It's difficult to do. Yeah. I'm able to discuss this so naturally, so fluidly, and without having to resort to an obvious script or anything like that, because this is information I know and that I live.
Okay.
As for how you can experience it, I can't tell you that because I don't know what your capacities are. When it comes to your discernment, you're going to have to look inside yourself, and you're going to have to make that decision yourself. I can't tell you. I can't make you. I can't force an experience upon you. That kind of thing doesn't happen. I will say that a lot of the proof is in plain sight and hidden, or kept out of the discourse, so that you dismiss it, as the product of a lunatic or as the product of fakery and trickery, without actually realizing that some of these things are indeed the case. When I started getting activated for this work, I lurked around on ATS, above top secret. Now, it's a shell-filled pile of WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get there. It's very much a your mileage may vary situation there, but there was plenty of convincing evidence there, and some of it was even in the mainstream, just overlooked. So, the sources are out there. You're going to have to do some digging around and searching. It's not all going to be handed for you. Sooner or later, it'll all be self-evident. But until then, the onus is on you to do your homework. Not for somebody else to prove to you.
This is, we're creatures, we're just programmed to question everything, okay?
Of course.
And that's good. It's better than not questioning anything at all.
Right.
And a good basis for people.
Go ahead, honey.
A good basis for people that want actual physical evidence they can see for themselves that aliens exist. All they have to do is look up the past 5 to 7 years of volcanic activity, and consider the fact that without the ETs intervening in the volcanic activity alone, we'd all be dead and suffocating in smoke and ash inhalation by now.
Yep.
That's common sense. That's science.
When I was first awakening, okay, the things that I looked for were not physical evidence or visual evidence. It was corroborating testimony. I would ask the questions of, say, just as a for instance, I would ask the question of Drake, and then I would research and I would ask the same question of other people purporting to know these things, okay? And there is no way that they could all be making up the same things in their head, or things like that. You use your own discernment, okay? And if different people's testimonies corroborate each other, then, you put the pieces of the puzzle together. Right? At least that's the way I look at it. So,
yeah, I mean, another thing, if they want something a little more current, they can look at all the earthquakes that were happening in close proximity to the Iranian nuclear power plant, that by any realm of any, concept of understanding how seismic activity works should have leveled that place, and it didn't.
And I think anybody who has gotten this far into Drake's programming and still insists that the cabal aren't real is really
devastating.
Consciously attempting to stay ignorant. If they exist, why is it so far-fetched that there are opposing factions?
Correct. Yeah, I have to agree. Okay, the question that was asked earlier about mermaids being real was not answered due to a broadcast interruption. Can you re-answer that question, if mermaids exist?
Mermaids exist. Mermaids exist. There are mermaids that are part of the Fae kingdoms. And and when I say Fae kingdoms, I'm kind of talking like we use the term animal kingdom. It's not generally not actual monarchy. There are also other intelligent, extra-dimensional, and extraplanetary species that are mermaids, or mermaid-like.
Yeah, what we generally use the term aquatic, because there'll be, various humans, humanoid, various human, I want to say humanoid is probably the more proper term, and fully sentient animal species. There's one race that looks like a cross between a squid and a whale that are aquatic. There's another race that has, basically they look human, but their eyes are a little more fish-like. They just, they still look like the normal human eyes. And then they have, webbing between their toes and their fingers, and they have a small fin down the back of their neck and slits below their ribs, where they, where the water breathing takes place, but otherwise they look relatively human.
And they're able to breathe on land as well.
Yeah.
Right. It's
and
Animal
they're fully
Planet.
telepathic.
Animal Planet ran a 2-hour special last Sunday evening purporting to be a documentary indicating the proof that mermaids exist, but then they're hearing that was a complete hoax.
I haven't seen it. I could comment on it. I know that a lot of those documentaries are really made for entertainment purposes, but yeah, mermaids exist. Whether or not they're always on this planet, I don't know. I don't know if there currently are any mermaids on this planet, or if sightings are just matters of wandering dimensional travelers.
Okay. This person insists that this question was not answered last week. I seem to remember it was, but nevertheless. Going from 3D to 4D, will it be an instant like throwing a switch, or will we go to sleep in 3D and wake up in 4D, or will it be a progression over a short or long period of time?
With all due respect, this has been answered by me. This has been answered by Tolek. I'm sure Drake's discussed this too. This has been answered. I will answer it again, just so that you can't claim that it wasn't. The overall transition is a process that takes a number of years. The point at which our bodies physically change from third-dimensional dense matter to fourth-dimensional crystalline fine matter will be an instantaneous thing. Snap of the fingers, change, that's it. When most people think of the transition, they are thinking of that moment when our bodies change from 3D to 4D. But the actual change itself is a process. Earth goes through a lot of preparation, which includes the activity of the crust and the poles, which includes the activity of the mantle, which includes the change in the Schumann resonance, or the hum of the planet. That is continuing and will continue after the transition. It also does include changes in our consciousness in terms of how we think, how we approach information, kinds of things that interest us. A lot of us are finding that we're losing interest in the day-to-day grind in order to focus more on matters of spirituality and progress. We're less interested in toil, and we're more interested in actual productive work rather than work for the sake of work. So yes, this is an ongoing process. The flip of our bodies from 3D to 4D is instantaneous. Whether it'll happen when we're sleeping or not, I don't know, because from what I know, it happens to the entire Earth simultaneously. So some of us will wake up 4D, and some of us will be like, oh, what? Did anyone just feel that? What the heck just happened there? So really, this has been answered.
Okay. It is my understanding that embodiment is required for the ascension into 4D. Could this be the motivating factor in the old world order's agenda to reduce the population down to 500 million? And would this prevent the ascension of these beings? Thank you for your time and taking to help with broadcasting with us.
Well, no, if those beings are not on this planet, what happens is they either go to 4D on their own, or they decide to go opt for another 3D life somewhere else.
Okay.
But it might very well be why the Cabal, with their twisted misunderstanding of how all of this works, decided to try to kill off all of us, or as many of us as they could. They're still trying to immanentize the eschaton, bring about the end of the world. It's not going to work. We're not letting that happen. There is no end of the world.
Okay. Tanaath, you mentioned that you established contact to them by doing astral projection. Could you elaborate on that and how exactly it is accomplished in detail? Is it similar to OBE or out-of-body experience? And if
it
so,
is an
what
out-of-body
advice
experience.
what advice can you give to a newcomer to learn doing so?
Okay, first of all, I personally don't astral travel all that much because I use a form of conscious bilocation and sleep work, which means that I go to sleep, my body is asleep, sometimes it's dreaming. If I'm out of it, I don't remember the dreams. If I'm in it at the time, I do. I usually don't remember the dreams because I'm usually out of it, but I don't always get to bring the memories back to what I do when I'm out of it, not in like clear, coherent memories like you remember what you did yesterday, more like what you remember when you were 5. So I really can't help you with telling you how to astral project because it's not something I'm very good at personally. I will recommend to people, if you're interested in that, the older work of Robert Monroe is very good. The newer work of Robert Monroe and the Robert Monroe Institute, well, it's been kind of booby-trapped and co-opted and all that. Another thing that's a great source is the Internet.
Yeah, and then Drake's book covers astral travel, too.
Exactly.
Drake, what was that?
Exactly.
His book covers astral travel.
Yeah.
Drake?
Yeah,
Okay,
Drake's book covers astral travel. So, you know, there's plenty of techniques out there. What works for another person won't necessarily work for you. Yes, it is the same as an out-of-body experience. That's exactly what astral travel is an out-of-body experience. There's a number of ways to do this. You can even, if you're not too good at the whole separation thing, if you're like me and, you know, the moment you start separating, something yanks you back in, well, lucid dreaming is another avenue in which you can learn how to separate without having to go through the whole rigmarole. There are options out there. There's forums dedicated to this. There's lots of places where you can go and learn. I'm not going to recommend a particular source over another because what works for one person might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for someone else. So try what works with you and use that.
Would you please elaborate on the people from Vega? Are they actually members of the Galactic Federations of Planets? Tolek has mentioned them on the Andromeda Council site, saying that they were helping, but I'd like to know a little bit more specific information about what role they are playing in order to help and what they look like, and a little bit more information about their culture and any little tidbits that you can think about who they are.
I'm really not an expert on that.
Yeah, honestly, there's not a lot that I can offer. They're the progenitors of the people from Sirius A, the Cote, the African Americans and Amazonians. They were one of the foundation races that were originally the first put here, along with the Lyrans. And they're members of the Andromeda Council. I don't know firsthand or directly if they are part of the Federation or not. I don't think so. As for what involvement they are involved in as far as helping the liberation process, I don't know. I don't have any direct information on their specific involvement. They're not one of the groups that I work with on a daily basis, so it's very hard to know what their activities are. Best I can answer.
Okay, this is a question for either of you two girls. Just what is it with the Galactic Federation of Light? The people speak very happy, very love, very light, and yet it seems that everybody who follows the Galactic Federation of Light is full of fear, and it's like the sky is falling like Chicken Little. They're freaking out. They're very much seem to be panicked, and seem very actually, although they speak love and light, seem to be very negative.
Well, that's pretty much a good way of saying it, is that they are very negative. The Galactic Federation of Light is an offshoot of the Galactic Confederation, which is where all the reptoids and all the bad guys are coming from. And they're
part of a specifically created apparatus designed to soften up human civilizations.
Yeah.
Not just Terra, not just Earth, but human civilizations. These broadcasts are being sent to a number of human planets, not just
Earth.
the Earth.
They're from mind control.
And, I don't want to discourage anyone who has a genuine desire to help out and a genuine desire to help for the light. Look at the messages. Look past the keywords, which are there to trigger you into thinking it's all wonderful and good. Look past the triggers that are there to program acceptance, and look at what is really said. They imply that, number one, a lot of them say that there's no war. which is a lie. They imply that we here on Terra have done this to ourselves, which we know is a lie. They imply that we're some kind of horrible planet-sidal psychotic race, which we know is a lie.
Yeah,
they imply that
I've
everywhere else in the universe is peachy keen but here, which is a lie. They imply that they tell us flat out that they want to invade us. Didn't they promise an invasion for July 9th last year? Didn't they promise an invasion for the London Olympics? Yes, the terminology they used was invasion, not friendly visit, invasion. They've been declaring that it has been decreed that we must have leaders of their choosing. It has been declared by them that their hierarchy has decreed this and that for us without consenting or consulting us without our consent. These are not the actions of people who have free will as their highest tenet. These are not the actions of people who have other people's best interests in mind. This is not friendly, even if they try to portray themselves that way. The words they're using, if you ignore the love and light trigger trappings that they use to try to hook you in, the words they're using are very disempowering. It encourages passivity. It encourages that you sit on your butt and accept instead of actually going out and doing something about it or thinking hard about it. And a very curious thing happens whenever you dare to speak out about the Galactic Federation of Light. You get flooded by people who attack you quite violently with their words, making death threats often, making very, very hostile comments, which is not exactly the actions of somebody who is of the light. And there is a difference between a legitimate complaint with backup, with evidence and demonstration, such as what I am doing right now, to demonstrate that, hey, this is a real thing. I'm not just making this up. I'm not just slandering. And ad hominem attacks designed to silence. We've noticed in a lot of communities that startups try to do this work, there is a tactic that is a saturation tactic where they bring in their people and dominate the dialogue, so it's all about the Galactic Federation of Light. That is a hostile move. That is actually a battle move, to move in all your people and dominate a conversation completely and squelch any discourse that doesn't go according to that conversation. That is a war move. That's a hostile act, and they do it all the time. I know Universal Voice has had its own issues with the information saturation attempts of these groups. Ask yourself.
I've even had personal experiences with some GSLers, and the minute you say one word bad about them or that contradicts what they've been programmed to believe and say and all this other stuff, it's like a major attack. And it's not just them verbally attacking you. They usually come with energy attacks on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Critical analysis is absolutely discouraged. Questioning is discouraged. That is not a healthy environment. That is not loving. It is not full of light, no matter how many times they use the words love and light and live in peace and dear ones. Those are just the trappings. Those are the trigger words to try to program you to follow along. Those are the honey to make the bad medicine go down, right?
Yeah.
Look at the actuality of it. Again, I am not trying to slander anyone who's attempting to do a genuine good job and help humanity. But a lot of these beings behind the Galactic Federation of Light, they have agendas that are not according to your best interests. And if you are a genuine light worker, I suggest trying to go it on your own instead of trucking along with them.
Correct. Okay,
it doesn't
ladies
help
and
anyone.
gentlemen, we have a little less than 30 minutes, and I've got about 5 pages of questions. So we're going to try to
rapid fire.
Oh yeah, we're going to rapid fire. We're going to really rapid fire. Okay. I've read and heard about Alex Collier and other sources how the Tau Satians are very loyal and had to be convinced not to come get their guy, affectionately called Hank, who had a mission of helping us with our little gray buddies to the reptilians' problem. However, Hank crashed in Arizona in 1961. Hank was then taken by the military-industrial complex and tortured mercilessly. I'd like to know what became of Hank. Where is he now? Is he all right? And please also tell us more about the Tau Ceti humans, information about their culture and what they are like and who they are.
Hank, I can talk about Hank. I can talk a lot about Hank. Hank does not like to discuss that time. He spent 3 years in captivity in which he was treated very, very poorly and in which he eventually died from a combination of his wounds, bad medical care, and the treatment itself that he'd received at their hands. At which point our superior officer had to be restrained because he was quite ready to come in guns blazing. Hank was, however, restored by his people. He is back with them, and he does not look like he was described in that. He looks significantly different. He has the pointy ears and the Mediterranean tan skin, but his hair is much more vivid, and his eyes are definitely not brown or black. He is actually part of our team. He does not use the name Hank, but we'll refer to him as Hank for this.
Okay.
He's doing really good right now. He's working again, doing what he was before. The 2 crew members who were killed with him were also recovered because it was just their 3D shells, the interface that they were using with Terra, that were killed. It wasn't them. So they've been recovered and restored to duties, and they're doing fine. Hank is a great guy. He's a very close personal friend of mine, and I love having him around. He's got a very interesting opinion on a lot of things, considering that he has actually spent some time down on Terra. But yes, he's a real being, and he's still around, and he's still, he wouldn't mind some payback.
He's ready to get her done, in other words, huh?
Yes, he is.
We learned last week that he doesn't like chocolate, and most of the
no, he doesn't like chocolate.
It seems the only one of the Tau Ceti people that actually like chocolate is my brother, and we can't figure that one out. But to go back into the culture and everything, the Tau Cetians were the ones that the Vulcans in Star Trek were based on. They're a positive race. They're the lead planet or lead race for the Federation, and they're pretty advanced. They're about 1.2 to 2.4 billion years beyond what is known here in Terra, including the Black Ops stuff. So,
culturally speaking, they're very friendly and curious, and they're notorious for being cuddly. Like, absolutely notorious for being cuddly.
Okay. They're real huggies, huh?
Yeah, they like to hug. They like to snuggle. They're possibly the lack of hugs did Hank in, because I'm sure there wasn't a whole lot of that going on there.
Yeah.
And their hair color, eye colors range from every ounce of the spectrum you could imagine, including some colors and shades that aren't even known here on Terra. And they're all tan-skinned, and that kind of ranges in shades too. As far as, part of their culture, they really love art. They have a military. They love all kinds of entertainment. As I mentioned before, they just opened a roller coaster amusement park on their main planet, the third planet. I've been told the worst that ever happens on one of their planets is that occasionally there will be a heated discussion or debate between two intellectuals, and then they go right on, after the conversation, they'll go right on, grab some food together and be like, oh,
keep talking the whole way.
Yeah.
They have a fondness for wine, although most Talsetians can't become intoxicated. So they're drinking it for the enjoyment.
Okay, we've asked this question of Drake, now you girls. Who is Lucifer?
Lucifer was one of the original creation beings that was brought into this universe to help handmaiden creation. These beings are often referred to as the lesser gods, the classical gods. He was another one of them. He took the fall for some pretty major stuff that he wasn't actually responsible for. And as a consequence, his name has been smeared big time. And that whole name, Lucifer, is a bit of a trigger for a lot of people. So I'm trying to avoid offending people's sensibilities here. But this is not the droid you're looking for. It wasn't what it was claimed to be. That whole story, eventually it'll come out. Now is not the time because there's still too much programming involved for a lot of people to really grasp what happened. But he became the universe's biggest fall guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
for somebody else's crime.
Yeah, and then the other one that became another big fall guy was Azazel.
Yeah, Azazel was actually an angel, not a demon. Not even a fallen angel either. But he took a big smear because somebody didn't like him.
Okay. Please elaborate on twin souls. And just saying, I think Sunfire sounds really cute.
No, twin souls isn't something I'm an expert on. I did discuss a little with Chris and Sherry Gio on Truth Frequency the other night. That show, you can probably look it up and look at here and there. I did mention I'm not an expert in that, so they might have more data on that than I do.
Okay.
Next.
All right. All right. Once we enter 4D, will there be a need for colloidal silver?
Yeah, there'll be.
Silver is still a very healing substance, no matter what dimension you're in.
Okay. For whoever knows the answer, in the recently released Terry Cassidy interview, she interviewed interviews a willing Fourth Reich super soldier by the name of Michael Prince and Max Spears. Michael Prince talks about how Marduk and his family are now back. Could you elaborate on this and tell us whether he is full of bull?
Without having listened to it, that's hard to say, but honestly, it sounds like a bunch of fear programming and disinformation.
And I have a friend of mine that knew him personally and said that he really needs a lot of help and is full of bull.
Okay. If it's true that if it is true what he said, please tell us how the Silver Legion and Andromeda Council are considering handling this situation. Also, if any of you know why these super soldiers have supposedly recently been moved to the state of Texas, the state that I live in, I would appreciate knowing that. And why do we have heavy hitters and bad guys coming to the state of Texas? Just what is going on? I think they need to be moved to West Virginia, where Drake is.
Maybe they're collecting in a convenient location for us to get rid of. I don't know.
Yeah,
as for what we intend to do about it, if it turns out to be a real thing and a real problem, we'll take care of it.
Yeah,
or it will be handled one way or another. You know, we're not exactly worried.
Yeah.
As far as Marduk and his people, they were dealt with about 450 million years ago when their planet Maldek was accidentally blown up. They went with it.
It was really not a nice place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This guy's not very nice to you either, Drake. He says he thinks they need to move to West Virginia with Drake instead.
Watch it now. Watch it.
Well, I think it's because
very
they know
nice.
that Drake will take care of every one of them, get them properly.
Yeah, he knows Drake will get her done.
That's why he wants them to go to be in West Virginia with Drake, because, Drake will take care of them. Okay. Isn't that right, Drake? You'll get her done. All right.
One way or the other.
Okay. Did the U.S. sign a UN treaty in 1992 that basically eliminated the Constitution and put the United States under UN control?
Drake, that's your territory. All right.
The answer is no.
Okay. All right. They were thinking this was the reason our government is ignoring our Constitution. Okay.
They're ignoring the Constitution because they think they've gotten to a point where they don't have to. And we intend to show them otherwise. Not only us in space, but those of us down here on the ground. Right, Drake?
You got it.
Okay. Tanaath and Sunfire, when and how did you become aware of who and what you are? Did you suspect something wasn't right or something was different with you before?
Well, I've suspected I wasn't all that normal from childhood, simply because all of these things in society that people just sort of understand naturally, I just didn't get. I mean, nowadays they'd probably call that Asperger's. Honestly, I think a lot of kids and adults with Asperger's are incarnates, because I was operating from a completely different framework of society that just didn't match what I was in. I came awake to what I was, at least in the general sense, at the age of 16. It was a very interesting time, so to speak. To all the people that I offended with my idiot antics in my teen years, I am very, very sorry. Keep in mind that I was a teen, being a teen, going through the added stress of being a non-human at the same time and trying to figure out who I was, how I fit in this world, what it all meant, and what I was going to do about it. So, I made the usual idiot blunders that anybody makes at the age of 16, just in a different forum. As I went on, I learned more and more about myself and the situation. I would say I got a kick it into high gear activation at the end of 2011, when I was getting very, very powerful internal drivings to get involved and figure out what was going on. And that's when I chose to bring the Silver Legion, which had been around for a long time already, into the fray, so to speak. And I was really the only one qualified to be able to do this because I am the Prime Commander. So it wasn't like somebody else had the seniority to actually make that call.
Okay, next question.
Sunfire, maybe you want to tell yours?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Growing up, I always knew I was different. When I started finding out, who I was and everything, it was kind of like a weird experience. It was only a few years ago, my brother actually came down and visited with me, and that was unexpected, but a very, very positive experience. And it's just kind of been a wild ride since then, and I wouldn't change 1 minute of it for the world.
Okay, thank you so much. If we live for 8 to 15,000 years in 4D, does that mean it is a much safer environment than 3D? In other words, are drownings, murders, suicides, and diseases basically non-issues?
Suicide is very, very, very rare. Accidents happen, but again, they're fairly rare because most of us have the ability to get ourselves out of that kind of trouble.
Biggest deal is disease and health is much improved.
Disease and health, unless it's you're not going to find degenerative diseases and things that result of that variety at all. If it's a disease of a biological origin, such as, say, a bacteria or a virus or something like that, it's usually introduced and being used as a weapon, in which case there is treatment and there will be people who will help to eliminate it, make it better, and cure it. When it comes to natural lifespan, unless you're a warrior, you have every expectation of being able to live out your natural lifespan. Now, warriors, we like to get in the middle of it. So our lifespan is significantly shorter on average because, you get in the fights, occasionally you're the loser. It's just how it happens. Every now and then you lose.
Yeah, a good example of that is like the average lifespan for a Talsetian is about 20 to 30,000 years in 5D, but the average lifespan of like the
a military operative,
is more closer to around 3,500 years on average. Yeah,
if you make it past your 3,000th birthday, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you make it to 10, you're doing really good.
Will housing in 4D be significantly different, and will there be mortgages?
There won't be mortgages, at least not for very long. You don't change an entire financial way of doing things overnight. There are things that can change financially overnight, but the plans are currently to phase out the financial system over a period of about 10 to 15 years. So you won't have mortgages for very long. If you're locked into one of these 50-year mortgages, don't worry, you're probably not going to have to deal with it all those 50 years. When it comes to the ownership of property, that is not something we do. It's not necessary.
Okay. Cool. Free will we have it or not? This is really, really important to me. If free will isn't real, what's the point to life? I believe that I can only be influenced, not mind-controlled, unless I allow myself to be. Is that true or not?
Yes, and yes. In order to be able to resist mind control, you have to be aware that it's going on. Once you're aware that it's going on, it becomes a lot easier to resist. Some people are spontaneously more resistant than others. But yes, free will is real. It's one of the things we're working at ensuring happens here because there have been those who've been trying to take it away.
Okay. Let's see. Quick. Let's see. To what planet, species, or race or species did the Druids come from and belong? Are they 5D or higher?
They came
5 and 60, and they're the Pegasus system, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The main planet in the Pegasus constellation.
Okay. Could you describe how does a negative 4D planet civilization look like? For example, how does a 4D planet operate in a negative way?
Well, for a good example of how a negative society operates, go pick up a copy of R.A. Salvatore's Drizzt Do'Urden series, the one that takes place in the Underdark. And you'll have a very, very good example right there of how a negative society runs regardless of dimension.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, have you tried using the supplement RNA drops? The creator is a non-physical being that goes by the name Ion, and he has talked with Bob and Carolyn Dean on their radio show for 3 years now. They say the RNA drops help you to create new perfect cells, and that RNA drops will speed up the ascension process. Do you know who or what type of being Ion is? Thank you.
Ion is an AI that is being ran by the Reptoids.
I don't have the money for things like RNA drops. I'm focusing more on things like keeping my family fed. than enriching somebody else on
right.
an unproven thing.
Gotcha.
For me, if I when it comes to things like that, you don't need any assistance to ascend. You're going to ascend. So if it's promising to help you ascend, it's selling you a refrigerator when you live in the Arctic.
Gotcha. Okay, question. I think we're all clear on the fact that replicators provide such things as food and clothes. However, does one return the dirty dishes and clothes to the replicator to be dematerialized and the energy stored for other applications?
Yeah, we de-manifest as well as manifest, and it does store the energy and then bring it back out again. You never have to do laundry again. I think this might be why some incarnates have a problem with housework, because we're used to environments that clean themselves, laundry that does itself, dishes that clean up after themselves, and even beds that make themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know for like clothes, we have for like clothes there's what they call a matter recycler, and for like food, the dishes, that kind of thing, as soon as you're done with it, you just put it in the replicator, push a button, and it demanifests. And they work on a kind of an over-unity type thing, so it's not exactly storing energy and matter. It just, taps into the source field and creates out of that.
Yeah, and when it comes to clothes, imagine a world in which all clothes you ever put on fit perfectly. Oh, man, am I ever looking forward to that. I have a very hard-to-fit figure. Seems like nobody designs clothes for it.
I have time for one more quick question. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if it'll be possible to meet yet again next week, because, we just have a phenomenal amount of questions that people are thirsty to get answered. I guess we'll play it by ear, but I will extend the invitation and hope that maybe next week we can do this one more time. Because, like I said, there are, it's just, we've got a lot of people waking up and they have a lot of questions. So, and I really regret that we have gone as fast as we possibly can, but I don't see us getting through these questions.
Provided I have not got something else that I have to do, I have no problems coming back again next week. This is a very important thing. People have a lot of curiosity about this. There's a lot of misconceptions. In some cases, there's some fear. We definitely want to take out the fear. We definitely want to emphasize that these beings are real people, just like you and I. And you don't really get a sense of that until you start talking about the down-to-earth, day-to-day stuff. Like, what do you do with dirty dishes? Is there still sex? Do people still have babies? That kind of thing. These questions are important.
They may seem like silly questions, but they're actually very important to people. So, and I want to thank our listeners for your questions. People have thought out their questions very well, and these are real concerns of people, and fear of the unknown, and that's what we're here for, and that's why we have invited Tanaath and Sunfire to be with us. And that is why Drake speaks of them and what Tolek tells people and everything. And this is what we're trying to prepare everybody for. So, you've come to the right place. You come to the universal voice, and you want to listen, and that's what we're here. We want to provide your answers. So, ladies, thank you so very much for coming and joining us, and to help, for helping to educate and calm people's fears, and to help us in moving forward to where we're going. And we can't thank you enough for taking your time to spend with us and all of our listeners.
Yeah, we're happy to be here and do what we can to help out.
Thank you so much. Okay, Drake, do you want to make a closing statement? We have about 3 minutes left.
Yeah, that's real simple. You're done. One of the things that is important is getting the info out to as many people who would care to listen as possible. One of the things that people do not realize is that this is your future, and you need to know about it. In other words, the future is not going to wait on you. It's going to happen anyway. So what we're trying to do is provide the seatbelt for the roller coaster ride. In other words, get your mind right so that you don't have problems like certain people, having failure to communicate. The interesting part about this is twofold. One, you got two people answering things in very relatively simplistic ways. I will interject every once in a while, put something in that's just plain old street language, so everybody that is hearing it can fully understand it or grasp it if I feel the necessity to do so. The interesting part about it all is that it all deals with the same thing. Things are changing. We're going to have some stuff come up here shortly that's going to change some outlooks of people. We got some things that are going to change extraordinarily. And then we got the help of a galactic group that are just trying to give us a hand up so we don't fall off the ladder kind of thing. And I really look at that as interesting and a privilege and things like that. And the reason I do is simply because whom else do you know of that brings an ambassador on? You ain't gonna find that. You'll find
just Olaf, really.
Well, but you're going to hear things from Timbuktu land that are iffy at best. This is the one venue where you get to ask questions, and they're repetitive, and they it gets old. But what you got to understand is that there's no stupid question, even if it's been asked before.
One of the